This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. My name is Grant, and behind the camera this afternoon we have Craig. And this afternoon we've come out to an area where some cheetah were seen this morning. And we've come across this beautiful scene of two female giraffe with the backdrop of the Lubombo Mountains in the background. So we spotted these giraffe as we came up to a beautiful open clearing, which is actually the airstrip on Phinda. And this mother cheetah and her two cubs have been using the area to rest at night, but also have been looking for prey or hunting opportunities. And yeah, so we've come out to look for them again, spotted these giraffe, and for now, they seem to just be ruminating, but feeding every now and then. So remember, guys, we are coming to you from a number of live locations across Africa, and please feel free to ask us as many questions as you want, and we will happily do our best to answer them as we enjoy all the sights that we found for you this afternoon. It's quite interesting that both of these giraffes are facing directly into the sun. Thanks so much, Wild Dog. You're just commenting on how beautiful these giraffe are, and it's a great start to the drive. Always when we find something early on, it's often a good sign for what's to come. So that giraffe on the left, she's been looking off in one direction quite regularly, or for quite a while, and so Craig and I are going to be investigating this area to see if we can maybe find any signs of those cheetah this afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to an incredibly sunny andBeyond Ngala. I'm trying to keep moving in the breeze, trying to keep cool. Can definitely see the benefits of an elephant having a bit of a built-in fan system. So my name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide on safari today at andBeyond Ngala. Behind the camera we have Sebastian, and we're actually hoping to find some leopards this afternoon. So we've come to the central part of the reserve. You can see it's beautiful and lush. Some nice big trees which are perfect for leopards, and there's actually a water hole that we're going towards because we're wanting to have a look if these leopards are around this area. It is the central part of their territory. It's called the Tswalu Leap. I know you have seen them before, any of our viewers that have watched before. And this is one of my absolute favorite areas. You can see stunning big marula trees around, clearings with impalas. This really is a fantastic place to be looking for leopards this afternoon. It is still a little bit warm, so maybe we might see some tracks and have to track them. I don't think they'll be moving right now, but we are hoping to find them for you. So I really love the heat in the afternoons here. It can be a little bit overwhelming in the heat of summer, but at the moment it's actually still manageable. And I particularly love this area. You can see a lot of trees casting shade. Gremlins, no, I don't think we've...
Oh, sorry about that. You lost Phinda. But good afternoon, you're now with me. You are here in Djuma Private Game Reserve as we are bumbling in the intense heat. Slathered ourselves in sun cream, and who are we? My name is Lauren and I do have cat on camera today. Now, we're going down Twin Dams Road in search of Sabui and cubs again. It was a little bit of a tricky sighting this morning. Why? Because she was not on our property. She's actually on Little Gowrie, in the Mulwati, but on Little Gowrie, and therefore it was very busy with lots of traffic and probably not the best visuals. So we're hoping to head down there because the nearest body of water, and they're going to be thirsty, it's really hot, really, really hot, is Twin Dams. So I'm hoping that the three of them cross the boundary that we call Remain, come to Twin Dams on our side and have a drink. I think it would be really lovely to see them all having a little drink. Either myself or TRISHALA, I'm not sure who, will also check on Olivia as well. It's a fundamental part of our day, well, my day at least. I've got another wonderful drawing for you. I bet you all can't wait to see my new piece of art. But please do send in your comments and questions today. We can't wait to hear from you. And hopefully, that's dried up. That little pan right here, it's a natural pan. We're going to take a little look at it. It's not a man-made one. Had water in it not so long ago. So you can just see the temperatures and the complete lack of rain has just dried it right up again. It's no longer available for water. We really, really need more rain. Oh, yes, we do. Okay, so we're going to bumble on to look for Sabui, and you're going to bumble on to another location.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a beautiful afternoon here at Tswalu Kalahari. Talking about rain, we had some really good ones last night and then this morning. That's why we couldn't join you this morning. Beautiful, beautiful rain, guys. By the way, my name is Moritz. Behind the camera, we've got David. And we are looking for some lions this afternoon. So with that being the case, it's perfect conditions for tracking lions because all of the roads has been washed out smoothly. So if there's any fresh tracks that comes over the road, that it's going to stand out like a sore eye. So yeah, exciting afternoon lying ahead. We're hoping that we pick up on some tracks and hopefully we are going to be able to pick up on those little cubs. I'm still looking for them, still haven't seen them by myself or with my own two eyes, so it's time. But yeah, that is the mission for this afternoon. However, you know, it is the bush, so whatever we do get to see, we're going to share with you. It's wonderful to have you with us on this afternoon. So hopefully there's not just the lions, but also a couple of other interesting things that we get to share with you. So yeah, our plan for this afternoon, as you can see there in the road, how the water is standing puddles. That's just evidence of the rain that we've had over the last, I want to say, maybe 18 to 12 hours. So with that being the case, going towards a waterhole to go and start looking for some tracks is not going to be as important this afternoon, just because there's water standing everywhere. It is the Kalahari, so the water's sunken in quite a bit, but however, there is still puddles standing here and there. So with that being the case, we are going to head to the favorite den spots, rather, for the female lions, to see if we can't pick up on tracks of them stashing their cubs there, or where they've maybe collected them early in the morning after leaving them there overnight or something like that. So that's the plan for the afternoon. It is a beautiful, beautiful day though. We are so happy to have had some rain. In some areas it's even gone over an inch of rain, which is more than 10% of our annual rainfall. So that is incredibly good. You can see the bushes looking green. It is just a stunning, stunning day to be out here. But yeah, so the first mission for this afternoon is going to be finding some tracks. Or, you know, sometimes you get lucky and you don't even have to find tracks, you just bump into the animals. But I'm just loving the rainy season. It is my favorite time of the year, with me being from the farm. You know, as soon as the rain starts falling, you know that there is life on its way. So very, very happy. You can also see some of the plants starting to flower, some of the eland's peas and the eland's beans, all of those types of plants, they're starting to get these little yellow flowers. So yeah guys, as soon as we pick up on some tracks or on anything more than that, we are going to let you know, but for the meantime we're going to send you off somewhere else.
Good afternoon everyone. It is a sweltering here in the Sabi sands this afternoon. It's about 34 degrees Celsius, 94 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're here in Simbambili at the dam where there's tiny little goslings. How cute is that? Hi everyone, it's me, TRISHALA, and I've got Theo on camera this afternoon. We're both getting our tan on. As you heard, it's very, very warm, so we're going to find ourselves a patch of shade and just kind of chill out and have a look at what's going on at the dam. So we know that the Nkahuma male, not one of the cubs, but the male where actually when I started was quite littler. He was a sub-adult at that time. He's been around this area, so we're going to look out for him as well. He looks very, very impressive now, and I'd love to see him. It'll be like catching up with an old friend. But for now, we have these tiny little goslings. Apparently, they have quite a lot of fun here at the dam. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is just one of the most amusing things to watch little creatures, baby creatures, whatever they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 it is. So beautiful. It's still quite quiet because of the heat, but this is a good time to sit in an area like this, because along the shallows of the dam, lots of interesting birds will come to drink. And in the heat of the day at this time, one of the best things we can do is bird watch. Although you can still hear the Cape turtle dove. Can you hear that? It's lovely and peaceful, and I must say, even though we're not in shade exactly, it's quite cool here. Really nice breeze going. I'm sure you can hear that too. Now we know that Egyptian geese basically eat vegetation. You see them eating grass and other things, rhizomes and things like that. But you'll find with chicks, in fact that goes for most bird chicks, it's important for them to have a bit of protein as well. So the chicks might take a few invertebrates that they see in the water. Vonko, you say they're adorable little fluff balls? Definitely. Oh. Hey, oh, see, this is why I love to come to the dam. There's a hyena. It's just going to walk down to the water. Look at that. Look at that. I'm just going to take my binos out. Squeak you're hearing is the focus on my binoculars. That clearly needs something to be done. I'm not sure you can put a Q20 on your binoculars. Oh, hello, hyena. I don't recognize you. Look around the ears out. Oh, wowza. You look like you might be pregnant. Look how large that belly is, and look at the nipples hanging as well. Is it not? No. I thought maybe that rounded ear that I was seeing was actually June, because she has that limp ear. I'm just going to grab the name of the viewer again, who asked quite a cool question. Will this hyena eat the goslings? Rin, you wanted to know whether this hyena will eat the goslings. She could. I think that limp ear is June. The ear actually looks better if it is her. And she looks pregnant. About to pop pregnant. Yep, that's the floppy ear of June after she got the short end of a stick during the clan takeover. I just want to say this hyena's ears are so far apart. I thought it was really round, but that was just an effect of the shadow. Oh, I'd say if you are heavily pregnant and in heat like this would be a great place for you to hang out. Cool down in the water. I would say 100% she is pregnant, which means that the hunt for den sites is on. And maybe we can look forward to even more hyena babies. It really is baby season, isn't it? You can see a lot of her gum is exposed as well. I haven't seen her often. We used to see her so much before Corky got overthrown. And since then I haven't seen her very much at all. Oh, a hippo has popped out as well. Nice to see that they're not having an altercation. Gosh, the hippo is humongous compared to our hyena. All right, well, we're going to stick around for longer. It is getting warm sitting here, so we're going to find a patch of shade.
Chilling in the water, we have another beach babe. I think it could be heart, but I'm not entirely sure. The entire body is submerged. The face went in for a while as well. Just looks a little bit like heart. There's a nick missing out the right ear. And we're at Twin Dams, so I wonder if this hyena is just keeping a close eye on the Sabi situation. But it's far too hot, so why not come for a swim? This little hammer copy also taking a bath, but must be careful. The jaws of death are not too far away from you. We also have a female saddle-billed stork. Everyone's keeping their distance, keeping their space. Got their sun... Look at the hyena, sorry, it keeps dunking his face in the water. Sorry, I don't know why that's funny, but it is. It's very much enjoying this. I think we need to get it a lilo. If anyone can confirm if it's heart, please do let me know. I'm looking through my binos. You're having the best time, aren't you? Well, if anyone ever wondered how hyenas keep cool, this is your answer. Jack, you're asking, are hyenas affected by the heat? Absolutely. Hyenas are mammals, just like us. We're mammals. We're affected by the heat. But we are lucky enough not to be entirely covered in hair. Parts of our body, yes, but not all of it. So can you imagine being covered in hair in this heat? If I was a hyena, I would be doing exactly that all day long. So yes, they are affected by heat. They don't sweat in the way that we do, but they can cool through panting, evaporative cooling through panting, and of course seeking shade and seeking water. So when this hyena, who I think is heart, comes out the water, she's going to be wet, and therefore the gentle breeze that's passing over us, far too gentle actually, will assist in cooling her down. But I don't think she's going to leave anytime soon. And it really is far too hot. And each species out here, whether you're a reptile, whether you're an amphibian, whether you're a mammal, you have your own way of cooling down. Leah, you're asking how many species of hyena are in the Sabi San. There's 4 species that come under the umbrella Hyena Day. 3 of them sort of have the name hyena, which is the striped, the spotted, and the brown. And the 4th one is called the aardwolf. But collectively, they're a family, and they're known as the Hyenidae, which is an family of the order Carnivora, the flesh devourers. And in the Sabi Sands, really, you only see the spotted hyena. I believe a brown hyena has been spotted once, but I think that was a real rare thing for this area. But you can see brown hyenas in the Kruger. We're sort of on the western fringes of the greater Kruger National Park, and it's mainly the spotties. They are the sort of most common hyena that you will find here. It's on my bucket list to see the striped and the aardwolf. Top of my bucket list, actually. Mel is telling me no IDs have come through yet. It is tricky because you can't see the body or the spot pattern, but that little nick in the right ear does look like heart. But in saying that, it's been so long since I've seen the Djuma clan that I'm probably losing a little bit of touch with them. If it is heart, she is a mother of 2 of the cubs, who we have still to sort of identify their gender. One is definitely female, especially from watching this morning's encounter. And the other one, a little bit of a question mark. So I'm desperate for a sighting where I can zoom in on the genitalia of the youngsters and really confirm the sex of Heart's cubs. Now, the Djuma clan has suffered great loss. And as it stands, there's only 5 adult females, which is really not a lot. It needs to grow. Suffered great loss from losing Pretty, one of the main females, and suffered great loss in losing a lot of the cubs from the previous years. Petty, Swana. So it really, really needs to sort of grow again. Plonk, we lost Plonk. So as much as I don't want to leave the hyena, I must seek some shade myself. So we're going to continue down to the southern boundary.
Alrighty guys, so still on a lion finding mission, so no tracks yet. However, we just came across this little steenbok. Look at how well it's hiding. It's a little male. You can see the little horns. And you know, in the Kalahari, the ability to deal with extreme temperatures is quite important. And so the steenbok and then the springbok that we have around here are the 2 small types of antelope that are the best equipped to deal with the high temperatures during summer. Because they are so small, their body to surface ratio is quite close to one another. So they can get rid of excess body heat quite quickly. If they just stand in the breeze, all of that body heat gets taken away and they cool down relatively quickly. With the steenbok, then again, also when it comes to extreme cold temperatures, you'll actually find them climbing into warthog burrows or aardvark burrows, which is quite uncommon. When I just started working here in the Kalahari at Tswalu, the first time I heard of it, I told the guys there is absolutely no way I'm believing that until I saw it with my own 2 eyes. They physically go into the burrows, guys, to get away from the cold and, well, away from the heat to a certain extent as well, but it's more for the cold. which is amazing to see an animal's changing their behavior like that. You know, from where I came from, the Lowveld originally, to coming here, it's just amazing to see the different adaptations.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, everyone. And just as we had hoped, those giraffe definitely helped us in finding these cheetah. And you've joined us just in time, because they were lying down literally until about 5 seconds ago, and they've just sat up all of a sudden. And the giraffes that we actually used to help us to find these cheetah are slowly approaching the cheetah, and I think one of them brushed against a bush or something, and it made a sound that gave the cheetah a fright, and they all sat bolt upright. And you can see now they're all scanning in different directions, just checking that the coast is clear. Nice stretch. And they've all had their mouths open. If you look at Mom, her mouth is still open and she is panting. So it has been very hot today, and they're just in the shade of this guari, just trying to keep cool. Oh, nice stretch and a yawn from Mum. Maybe she's gonna move. Jack Penn, thanks for the question. Jack Penn is asking, would the big cats still come out in this heat? Typically, no. So the cheetah are a little bit different. Lions and leopards have very, very good nocturnal eyesight. Because of the fact that they are active mostly at night when it's much cooler. So they can actually overheat when it's really, really hot. So mostly lions and leopards, we will find them almost 90% of the time lying in the shade. And on very hot days, just like these cheetah that we're looking at now, they are also in the shade because it is very hot, but they are more active in the daytime. And so we do quite often see cheetah moving around, and Mom is looking like she might want to move. The giraffe seem like they are coming towards the cheetah, so the cheetah will probably get a bit uncomfortable, and Mom will lead the cubs away. And the Mom goes, oh, she's decided to move. So she's had enough of the giraffe getting closer. And the cubs should follow shortly. So that one just behind Mom is a young male. And the last one is about, there we go. There's the little female, and she's on her way out as well. Look at if Craig goes back to the giraffe, look at them all staring now that the cheetah are moving. The giraffes are all staring at the cheetah. Now, the cheetah are not a threat to these giraffes, especially a mom and her cubs. She will want to stay away from the giraffes because the giraffes could potentially injure her or the cubs. And that's why she got a bit uncomfortable with the giraffe approaching. You might wonder why the giraffes are approaching, and they are quite curious animals by nature, but also it's a little bit of just coincidence in this situation. They were just feeding and moving slowly in the direction of the cheetah, and like I was saying earlier, that first one that we spotted, she might have noticed the cheetah and then came in to investigate. And now you can see Mom has found just a slight rise in the grass there, and so she's gone up onto that. It's a little mound actually, and she's just sitting on there to get a slightly better vantage point than if she was sitting on the flat ground in that grass. And she's just scanning around. So the airstrip is just behind her, and it's still a little bit early, but as the sun starts to go down a little bit, impalas, inyalas, wildebeest and zebra, they typically come out of where they've been feeding during the day, and they like to rest in the airstrip. So I think that's what this cheetah is hoping for this afternoon. I think she's waiting to see if any of those, more especially for her, impala or inyala, come out onto the airstrip this evening to rest for the night. But now she's in the sun, so they're going to start getting very hot again. Camo's noticed something interesting about these cheetah and is asking, are cheetah always this skinny? Most of the time that we see cheetah, actually, Camo, they are quite skinny like this. They just have the very slender frame. These cheetah are extremely healthy, and they are just skinny because they haven't eaten in a few days now. And it's really, really evident on cheetah compared to things like lion and leopard, lion and leopard are much more stockier built, very muscular cats. Cheetah are very thin and streamlined naturally because of the fact that they need to use speed in order to hunt and catch their prey and chase down their prey. And so they lack the muscle in order to be the muscle and the bulk of a lion or a leopard. They lack that bulk in order to be much quicker and more agile when they're running. So it is quite normal for us to see them like this. And when they have eaten, it's very easy to tell because they get a very big bulge in their stomach. And they will eat, they will actually gorge themselves and eat as much as they possibly can, because they don't know when their next meal will be. It's a beautiful scene, isn't it, with Mom and the two sitting in that long grass. Well, thanks, Randall. That's also a brilliant question. Does the cheetah and the leopard's fur feel the same? And it doesn't. So a leopard has very, very soft, fluffy fur, more similar to like a domestic cat. Very, very soft fur. Whereas a cheetah has almost got like coarse, sort of wiry hair or fur on its body. And the reason being is that they are more adapted to hunting and being active during the day, and that coarse hair holds heat less than the very soft fluffy fur that a leopard has, because of course leopards are, as I mentioned, more active at night when it's much colder, whereas cheetah would be huddled up. Yes, how amazing is that, how those cheetah have just disappeared now. So the cheetah's fur is really tough and coarse and quite wiry. compared to the leopard's fur. I think for now, Craig and I are going to stay here because the giraffe have not moved off. They are still looking at the cheetah, and the cheetah are kind of trying to hide now in that long grass. So we're going to just see what happens here.
We're still here at the dam with our gorgeous goslings. Our hyena has got up and left. And luckily, when she did get up and leave, she gave us a good look at her entire body. It was most definitely not June. June has a very obvious kind of juice written in spots, obviously, on her flanks or on her sides. That was not her, even though it had a bit of a floppy ear. And it actually looked like it was in a very bad way, that hyena. It was missing a tail. We realized it had a lot of injury to her back legs. You could see quite a bit of her flesh. So she's gotten up now and left. And these guys are feeling good to come and have a bit of a swim. I've had a look just a little bit around here for the Nkuhuma male I was telling you about. And so far all I see are his tracks. So I think after this little bit, we'll go on a tracking mission. In this heat, he will be so flat. There's some guinea fowl that have come down to drink as well. And a grey heron. Look at these guys. Now in my garden in Johannesburg, while I was not here, we found two guinea fowl chicks. Or two guinea fowl chicks were in the garden, found and brought to us. Tiny, tiny, tiny little things, just gorgeous with their stripy pattern. Unfortunately, they did not survive. It would have been very nice to have a few of them running around. They often do abandon chicks. This grey heron looks like really awkward, firstly. Like maybe it wants to be friends with these guinea fowl, but I look a bit different, so I'm not sure. Yeah, just stand and pose cross-legged. You look great, grey heron. Got a lapwing. Hey Spas, you'd like to know how vulnerable these goslings are. Very vulnerable. One, Egyptian geese are not known to be fantastic parents, so they're vulnerable from the perspective that their parents might just not care for them in the way that they need. Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. They're not all horrible parents, but they're definitely not on the top of the list. So they're vulnerable from just bad parental care, vulnerable to bad parental care, as well as being taken by aerial predators, water monitors, and any land predator that comes its way. So very vulnerable. We often see goslings, and at the end of maybe end of a few weeks, you'll see there's only about 2 that survive. very nice to do some bird watching. But now I'm going to just follow those tracks and see if I manage to see the Nkuhuma male lying up somewhere. Although in this heat it may be difficult, but wish me luck.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, everyone. And we've just slightly repositioned so that we could show you the scene that we have in front of us. And the giraffe have not stopped staring at the cheetah. And it's pretty funny, like the cheetah aren't doing anything with the giraffe. Just stop everything that they're doing, they stop feeding. And they come closer to investigate, and then they kind of lose interest, like that one at the back. He was a little bit further away, or she was further away, and starting to actually move away. And then one of the cheetah got up and moved a little bit. And she thought, no, I have to go and have another look. Now you can see where they're lying at the moment, the cheetah. It's completely out in the open. So there's no real shade for them. And so Mom is starting to pant quite heavily again. She has yawned a couple times and groomed her paws a little bit. So we'll see. I'm quite sure she's going to move to some more shade, or maybe even back to the shade that they came from. But what a beautiful scene. Oh. She looks like she wants to lie down right there. Yeah. There we go. Making herself comfortable. And it only fuels the curiosity of the giraffe. Camo, I'm glad you asked. So an adult giraffe, I would 100% say completely out of the question for cheetah. But just in March this year, I actually I was following a coalition of male cheetah, and they were not hunting. They were actually doing a territorial patrol, and they walked through quite a thick area, and they flushed out unknowingly and completely by mistake and complete coincidence. There was a young giraffe that was lying down in the thicket. Its mom had left it there for the day to go, or for a few hours to go and feed, and then she would come back and let that little calf suckle. So it was still really, really young. And these two male cheetah bumped into this young giraffe, and it tried to run away. And unfortunately, they were really big male cheetah as well. They managed to catch and bring down that young giraffe. So it's not impossible, but it has happened very, very, very rarely. I tried to, after that, I mean, it was, for me, I thought it was completely impossible and off the cards. And so I tried to research it, and I did find one other record of a cheetah catching a giraffe, two cheetah catching a giraffe, and it was also, funnily enough, here on Phinda. But other than that, I actually haven't heard of any other instances where cheetah have hunted giraffe. So it's very unusual, but it can happen, specifically with calves. But a mom like this and her two cubs, they would more typically go for things like female impalas and female inyalas So Mom knows that she's got the responsibility of raising these two cubs, but also the responsibility of looking after herself. And like we've already noted this afternoon, they're very skinny, slender-built animals, not made for physical confrontation, and so they will more typically go for little duiker that have very small horns, female Ngala which don't have any horns, and female impala with no horns. So either antelope species without any horns or with very, very small horns is more typical prey for this female cheetah. I think Mom's had enough of the sun. You see a drop of spit even came out of her mouth. So I think for now she's going to be moving towards some shade. Anushka, that's a very good question as well. So Anushka is asking, so what we're going to do for now, guys, we're just going to have to reposition ourselves because the cheetah have walked behind us, and I will answer your question, Anushka, and that is typically cheetah only really ever trip their prey. But lions and leopards, if the opportunity presents itself or if it needs to be done, then they will definitely use that technique to bring down their prey. They more prefer to grab their prey by the back and pull it down, but cheetah lack that size and strength to pull prey down, and so they've specialized in using that ankle tapping or tripping technique. It seems as though Mom is definitely trying to head for some shade, but she's just gone straight past that bush. But I think it's because she knows that the giraffe will continue to follow her if she lies down so close to them. So it'll be interesting to see. I think she might just continue a little bit further away. If we go to the cubs, they've actually found the scent of maybe another cheetah. And they both had their noses, you can see their noses are down to the ground every now and then. And they stopped at a specific spot, and they were both had their noses pretty much touching the floor, trying to read that scent. Now if you go back to Mom, oh, okay, she's laid down. She was also smelling the ground just before she lay down. So we'll see the cubs head towards Mom now, and maybe they will pick up that smell as well. But it's just crazy. Every time I think Mom is going to go to find some shade, she lies down right out in the open, in the heat of the sun at the moment. And the giraffe are still following them. Now that cub has found something. And they are the giraffe. You see, they just want to keep an eye on these cheetah. Yeah, I think Craig and I aren't going to go anywhere for now. We're just going to see what happens here, because it is quite interesting behavior to watch.
All by myself. That was my cameraman's joke. My incredibly hilarious cameraman sang that to me, and I thought I have to share it with you all. Look who we have, Miss Olivia. she's awake. And when we first arrived, she was actually standing. Squatting. She was sort of squatting a lot more upright. You can really see those talons. We're getting a wonderful look at her feathers, her plumage, her wings. And just ever so slightly, and I mean ever so slightly, the shapes of the ear tufts, and I use those words quote unquote because they're not really ears, or nor do they have anything to do with ears, but those ear tufts are slowly starting to make an appearance. Hello, beautiful. Now I do have a diagram for you. Now this is said to be... Who is shouting at her? One of the arrow mark babblers, I think. Babbling away at poor Olivia. I think she's trying to sleep, Mr. Babbler. You wonder why they're called babblers? I think you'll find that's Olivia's house, Mr. Babbler. Your manners are atrocious. Oh, what do we have up here? Is this a bushshrike? Hold on, this might be my first bushshrike that I'm going to get on camera this year. You see it? Oh. Is it the grey-headed bushshrike? Yes, my first. Oh, the birds are hot. Look at that. Hot and bothered and grumpy. It's my first grey-headed bushshrike that I've managed to get on camera. Oh, poor Olivia's trying to sleep. The arrow mark babblers are notorious for creating quite a racket, even in camp. Oh dear. She doesn't seem too fazed though. She can barely keep her eyes open. I know that feeling. I'm sure we all do. Oh. My heart is melting here. Now let me just run through the newest developments since these babblers are not going to let up. This is said to be plus or minus day 18, and of course we found Olivia on the 1st. She could have hatched earlier than that. And if we focus on this one, she's said to be able to stand upright, and she normally keeps her wings in a dropped position. That's very, very common. The wings are heavy, the muscles are developing, the feathers are starting to come through. So these sort of shoulder blades, I loosely say, can't always hold them up, so they're dropped. And you can see the quills here. You can start to see the primaries and secondaries coming out of the quills. So she's really developing at this stage. And the head, which is interesting, because of the rapid feather development, the sort of big head look, that disproportional look is almost gone now. She sort of fits her own head, if you like. And She will, however, lose balance. So she's said to be able to stand at this stage like this. She'll do a great deal of sort of stretching and wing exercises, most likely during the night. That's very important. But every now and then, she's apparently going to lose balance and fall forward, which is a little bit sad. Now, I'm just going to point out this little bit here. The facial disc is really starting to develop because it's crucial in owls, that arrangement of feathers, like a parabola, and it's becoming very obvious. And the ear tufts, maybe this diagram's a little bit better, are slowly starting to emerge, ever so slightly. So this is where owl Olivia, should be, give or take a few days. And I think we're right on track, to be honest. I really do think she's 17 or 18 days old. And it doesn't mean that she'll match the diagrams exactly, but she's getting there. She's developing. She's heavily barred now. She's much darker now. She's standing. She's moving her wings. She's alone. She's been left alone. The final feathers are starting to emerge. So she's getting rid of that first down, getting rid of the second down, and the real feathers are starting to come through now, the final feathers. The flight quills are obvious. So the rate of change is still quite dramatic. Every day we come here, the rate of change is very, very steep. Anushka, I don't think so. Owls normally do, spotted eagle owls normally do have that sort of yellow eye. Mama's eyes are also quite yellow, and I remember Sebwig's were the exact same. And from the time that we first met Sebwig to when he dispersed, look at those talons, to when Sebwig dispersed, the eyes were that exact same colour. She's becoming quite famous. Jimmy, where's the owl? Where's the owl? We want to see the owl. You can see how sharp those talons are, and the legs are quite long. They're covered in white feathers. So although her head fits her body, she's still looking a bit awkward, shall we say. Now, just a quick update. I couldn't see Sabui, but that does not mean she's not lying flat in the shade in Little Gowrie. So we're going to hang around this area for a little while longer, and we'll go back to check for our leopards.
Good afternoon and welcome back to andBeyond and Ngala, everybody. I'm very jealous of Lauren and that little owlet. We actually came across a southern ground hornbill in this clearing, and it's now hiding behind the zebras and the impalas. But it's just such a stunning day here. It's this beautiful big clearing, and we've been watching them moving through the grass feeding, and some of the impalas have tiny little lambs. But there's just something very incredible about the area that we're in at the moment, because it's so different to everywhere else along the river at andBeyond and Ngala. You can see it's a beautiful open area, and in the background you can see a few shrubs where those impalas are. And it is a really, really stunning area, and I think now, just because the heat has started to take a bit of the edge off now, it's starting to cool down a bit. These animals don't mind being in the sun. But as we move on into the afternoon, this is actually some of my favorite time, especially to see impalas, because you can see how their color changes as the light changes, getting closer and closer to sunset. They become this very vibrant red, almost like a rust color. Absolutely love it. So those impalas are actually still pregnant. None of them have had a lamb yet. But we've had, probably between yesterday and today, I've seen maybe 6 or 7 little lambs. You can see how pregnant she is. She's got a very rounded belly. And so now within the next week, impalas should actually all be having their lambs, which is quite incredible. They're very well synchronized. So every time we drive past a herd of impalas, I'm thinking, where are the little lambs? They should be coming out. But it's an absolutely stunning day. We've actually got a bit of clouds building up in the background. It's almost starting to become like a hazy view. And so I think that's how we know we've had quite a few hot days, because now we've got a bit of a storm building up almost. You can see how heavily pregnant that zebra is as well. She's got a very low hanging belly. So every one of the herbivores at the moment should be coming close to giving birth, except for maybe things like elephants that don't necessarily have a strict breeding season. But it's always lovely to actually sit here and listen to what's going on around us, because in a situation like this, especially when you've got a few different species together, it's great for safety in numbers, but it also means it gives us an advantage of finding a predator, because now you've got more eyes and ears, different strengths of sense, and the capability of the zebras versus the impalas to smell predators or hear them coming. So it's always important for us to actually sit here and not ignore the smaller things, or the things that aren't in the big five, because they can really be an amazing indication of where other animals might be. I also think that zebras are by far one of the most unique animals you could get in the world. Nothing quite compares. She is very heavily pregnant, though. You can actually see around her stomach she's contracting her skin every now and then to shake the flies off. I just love it here. You can hear the birds calling in the background. We're hoping for another glimpse of that southern ground hornbill, because they are so rare. She stopped to think for a second there. She even stopped chewing to listen. Look at that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave them here in this clearing. We haven't seen any signs of predators here. We're going to carry on along the river and hope for a leopard.
All right, guys, so we've picked up on the lion tracks. Now, out here in the Kalahari, the blocks between the roads are so big that as soon as you find tracks, you don't just jump off and start following it. So what we've been doing is we've picked it up just over the hill over here, and then you circle the block along the roads to see if there's any tracks crossing out, because, you know, with these Kalahari lions also, they are especially adapted to travel great distances when they need to. So sometimes you find the tracks coming into a block, and then 3 blocks later you're still following lion tracks going in and out of those blocks. So we are just almost finished circling this particular block. The tracks look quite fresh, not from this afternoon though, but from this morning. It was after the rain. We could see that because we saw other lion tracks as well coming out, but that had been rained on. So I am thinking that they are somewhere around here. However, we still need to just do this last little bit of a stretch to confirm 100% that they haven't crossed out. There's some blue wildebeest over here, so I do not think that they are very close to us. If they are in this block, which I'm pretty sure they are going to be, I think, just with stops. But we'll jump off on the tracks as soon as we've now made sure that there's no tracks, absolutely no tracks coming out. But yeah, these guys are generally a good indication of being so that there's no lions close by, unless they just don't know about them. But yeah, we're going to see if we can find those tracks and see what's going on.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, everyone. And we are still with these cheetah, and they've just found a nice open patch, and the sun has gone behind a big cloud, and so it's nice and cool now. And I don't think we're going to actually see the sun again this afternoon because there's a really, really big cloud that it's gone behind. And so Mom is quite comfortable now to be lying out in the open. There's a nice breeze blowing on their bellies. And I was just having a look at their bellies actually, and it looks like they have eaten something, maybe something very small during the day today. Something like an impala lamb or a small duiker. It wouldn't go very far between the three of these cheetah. But their tummies are not looking super empty. So it just goes to show that even when they have got a bit of food in their tummy, this is the look of a cheetah. Very streamlined, slimline sort of body structure. So this one cub that's lying facing with its belly facing towards us is the young male. He's still panting a little bit. And then the one directly back to back with him, that's his sister. And then Mom is the one furthest on the left. Well, we've had an amazing time with these cheetah, especially with that interaction with the giraffes, and we got to see them moving around a little bit, but they seem to have found quite a nice spot that I think will be spending the rest of the afternoon. So Craig and I are going to move on from here and see what else we can find for you this afternoon.
We have one of the trio, I believe. I haven't identified who yet. It's very hot and they've just appeared, crossed from Little Gowrie into Djuma. I love it when it's that way around. I think heading for water. Wow, I've completely lost visual. Let's move now so we're ahead. I think it's one of the cubs. Just going to move so that we can get ahead of the animal rather than from behind it. Now this is Twin Dams, exactly where I hoped they would come. It's very difficult for us to see in the bright white light. That's why we sometimes ask you for help for IDs. Now this is Pan. Are you going to go to the Pan or are you going to go to Twin Dams? I could be wrong. This might be Sabi herself, actually. This is a big leopard. Going to the Pan. Okay, let me move forward. There's not much water here to drink. If there's any ID confirmations, FC, let me know. It's definitely one of the Sabi family trio. There we go. Would you look at that? Isn't that just lovely? On a hot, hot day, coming to quench that thirst. Right, who are you? Wow, that is one thirsty cat. And as we discussed many times, the sort of technique they use to actually get water into their mouth is really not that efficient. And therefore, they don't get a lot of volume of water into their mouth in one go. That's why it's a long process. I imagine after this they will go back to the kill, which is unfortunately not on Djuma. And although leopards will learn the landscape, they'll learn where water is plentiful, they'll learn their water holes, they can also smell it, using their nose to navigate and quench their thirst. Many of you are thinking it's Langa, one of the cubs. Well, there was a definite absence of testicles. So there's your first clue. So yeah, I think this is the female cub who has been recently named as Langa. The male is Shasha. I think I was saying Sasha earlier. I apologize. It's Shasha. S-H-E-S-H-E. And they've got quite a different appearance, the two of them. I personally think that the male cub looks just like Mulwati. He's got a very masculine look, if that makes sense. Yes, I know he's a male, but he really does look like a male, very masculine. Whereas Langa, who I think this leopardess is, has a more feminine look. Now, I was hoping to get them all at the waterhole. That's better. Craig, leopards actually don't need to drink every day. They can be quite water independent. Depends on a number of factors. One, for example, would be the environment that they're in. Not all, I mean, you get leopards all across the world, so it depends on the environment. I think leopards in the Kalahari, oh, that's a perfect place to lie. Yes, you lie here in Djuma. That is ideal. I will have to call this in shortly, I'm afraid, because a lot of people are looking for these leopards. It's my responsibility to call it in. But yes, leopards in the Kalahari only need to drink maybe once every 10 days. They get a lot of hydration from the blood in their gills. But of course, it's summer. It's incredibly hot, extraordinarily hot. And they will dehydrate just like the rest of us. So in summer, I imagine they'll need to drink a lot more than in the winter. All stations, we've got one of Sabui's Mapinpan at south of Twin Dams. Now, summon the rest of your family, please. We want a family portrait at one of my favourite water holes. Look at that full belly. Also, when they're full and they've gorged themselves on meat, they also make them additionally hot, if you like, in this heat. So you will find when the temperature is this high, they will always come for water. So leopards don't really have to drink every day. It's fascinating. In winter, you won't see them drinking every day. They can be quite water independent, but it depends on a number of factors.
And thank you for the tools for the thread. Okay, copy, thanks, because I'm on air, guarding me to the cut line.
Sorry, I didn't catch the name there. You're asking why are whiskers so prominent in leopards? They're prominent in all the cats. They're extremely important for all the Felidae family. And there's a very famous cat, I think, called Misi, domestic cat, that had the longest whiskers in the world. But when you talk about leopards, all the cats have whiskers, and they function as a sort of sensory tool, if you like. And for leopards, they're probably prominent. They stand out because they are nocturnal. So if you think of humans who lose their vision, maybe people that are now blind that maybe weren't born blind, or they go deaf and they maybe weren't born deaf, so they're losing one of their senses. Let's just stick with sight, actually. The body will always find a way to compensate, and their other senses become heightened. And there was a lady once on a safari who, although she was blind and she couldn't see, her sense of smell was incredible. She could smell the animals, sometimes even before the guides. And the whiskers act as sort of an additional sensory tool. So when you can't see at night, or your vision is compromised at night time, although they have lots of specializations to help them see, the whiskers help them navigate. They help them not bang into things during the night when they're wandering through the thicket, the dense thicket with trees and vegetation. They're not going to bang into something, because those sensory tools help them navigate. They help them sort of say, you're not going to get through this small gap. Abort, reposition. They're actually called vibrissae. That's the proper name for whiskers, vibrissae. And they also have vibrissae above their eyes as well. That's the more sort of biologically correct term, shall we say, rather than saying whiskers. And they're actually hairs that have become modified. So just like certain things in the body become modified over time, it's essentially just hair that's modified and has a special sensory organ. And they grow all around the mouth and the eyes. It's the most important part to protect an animal's head. So if it brushes against something, be it a simple blade of grass, or maybe a tree trunk, or maybe something much bigger, much dangerous, the vibrissae move accordingly. And the sort of nerve cells there will send a message to the brain. If you think of seals also have vibrissae. You could say they have whiskers. Now, why? They're mostly in the water and they hunt fish. But sometimes they hunt in waters where there's absolutely no visibility. It's murky, it's dirty, or it's even just dark. There's no ambient light. And therefore, they use their vibrissae when it comes to hunting. And to help them find food, to navigate and find food. I believe the word whisker actually comes from that back and forth movement of the hair. That sort of motion is like whisking, when you whisk an egg. And I'm sure that's where the name whisker comes from, but the correct term is vibrissae. It's a sensory tool for navigation and for finding prey. Oh, Lincoln, I don't know. I can't answer that, I'm afraid. I think it depends on the person, it depends on your immunity, and it depends on the water body that you're drinking. I think you would become very, very ill. Lots of organisms out here urinate in there. The hyenas swim in it. The birds drop into it. There's all sorts of parasites and pathogens in there that our bodies would not be used to whatsoever. So I'm not sure if you would die, but I think you would become very, very ill. Or maybe not. Maybe you're superhuman and you would be absolutely fine. think we would get upset tummies. We're not equipped to deal with the parasites that a lot of organisms out here are. I'm really, really hoping that Mom and Brother comes over soon. Jan, testicles, that's your best bet. And I'm not joking. Leopards have very golden, prominent, obvious testicles. They're actually very beautiful, and they protrude past the tail, if you like. And I know it doesn't sound very pleasant to talk about these things, but it's the best thing to look at when they're this age. You've got Shasha and Langa that are very similar, well, they're litter mates. And they're young, so they haven't quite fully developed and got their adult features. So just literally look at the genitals. But if you haven't got a genital view or you're unsure, really the size difference in male and female leopards is remarkable. Female leopards are so much smaller than males, and you may not think it until you see them together. Not when they're this age. These are still sub-adults. But for the likes of Tingana and their mother, Sabui, the difference will be huge. And that's how we track leopards, and we know whether we're tracking a male or female. Purely by size. They've got the same tracks. It's still a leopard track. You know it's a leopard, but you know whether it's a male or female by the size of the track, because there's such a difference. But other than that, really, you've got to look for the genitals. When you see leopards mating, like Shudulu and Mulwati, it's almost jaw-dropping when you see the difference in size. Female leopards are very petite. Their size difference comes in at anywhere between 30 to 60 kilograms. But I don't think we've ever seen a leopard out here that's 60 kilograms. That's very heavy. And this little sub-adult would weigh a lot less than 30. Whereas the adults are said to come in at between 60 and 90. But 90 is a very big male leopard. I'm not even sure Tingana, who's one of the biggest in the area now, meets 90. So we're going to sit here and enjoy, and you are heading off to some other location.
Welcome back to andBeyond and Ngala, everyone. We're still driving around looking for a leopard when we actually noticed that there's quite a lot of vultures hanging around in the dead knobthorn trees here, which is, it's not unusual to find them in a tree with no leaves. This is normal. But what is unusual is that we can see vultures in almost every dead knobthorn tree around us. And that's sometimes an indication that maybe something died here. Maybe it might have been the lions that killed something, maybe a leopard, maybe something might have died of natural causes. They all look as though they are white-backed vultures, which is normal because they would be together. Normally what happens though is if there is a kill, the hooded vulture is the first one to look out for. And I haven't seen a hooded vulture yet, but we are, I think, going to spend a bit of time here and figure out what happened. Maybe there might have been something, even if it died from natural causes. You never know what that could bring. It could bring hyenas. It could be, a leopard that might have killed something. And actually, where I'm sitting at the moment, there's vultures on both sides of me, in front of me and behind me. So that's why I'm thinking this is a really good area for us to check at the moment. So I'm just going to try and listen to the sounds for a little bit in case there's some feeding noises or anything like that.
Alrighty guys, so as you can see now, well, we'll show you now, but we've now confirmed that these lions are in this block where we are at right now. So now is what we are going to do is we'll jump off, I'll jump off the vehicle and start following these tracks, those ones that you can see right now. As you can see, with the sand being nice and wet this morning, those tracks are just golden. I mean, you can, as soon as you pick up a set like that, you can follow them until where you step on the lion's tail if you are not eyes wide open. So making it quite easy for us, and then as soon as you do pick up on the lions, then that's when we'll go get the vehicle and drive into the block and go and view them. But yeah, so as you can see, they're heading just like this in that direction. From what I can see, there's 3 sets of tracks. So possibly those 2 sub-adult males and the 1 young female, because it does look like 2 of the sets of tracks are slightly larger, definitely male-like, and then 1 is a little smaller. It's not even digging into the ground as much. So, but these deep ones that we can see, those are the ones that I feel like could be the young males, because they're slightly heavier. When they step into the sand a little bit more. Beautiful, beautiful storm also developing, so we have to find these lions quickly before the rain is going to catch us. As you can see there, you can start seeing the first part, but the big blue monster is just off to the right, and you can start hearing the thunder every now and again. So what we are going to do is we're going to start following these tracks, and then as soon as we do pick up on any lions, we'll let you know, or we'll come show you. But it's always exciting to find good tracks like this. You know, it's for a guide, you know that you're in business when you find tracks like that. So hopefully not too long from now. Like I said earlier, it is Kalahari lions, so they can walk far. So fresh tracks might look good. However, you might still walk for a couple of kilometers before you find them. So hopefully that is not the case. And we'll be able to find these lions relatively quickly. However, I mean, it is what it is. So if we do have to walk a little bit and then only find them, that's also part of the excitement. It's always good when they make you work for it, because then you just enjoy them so much more. So yeah, that is going to be the plan for now. But seeing as that storm is coming rather quickly, I'm hoping that they are not too far away, because otherwise the tracks might wash away and we don't know where they're going. So we just had a question from Flonier Cat. What are the main differences between the paw prints of the big cats? So okay, first of all, size. Definitely. Lions, to give you an idea, out here in the Kalahari, the male lions have paw prints so big they'll cover your entire face, the front foot. So huge paw prints, even for the female lions, relatively big, because they have to walk in the sand the whole time. So having snowshoe-like paws helps a lot for them to operate in this sandy environment. The leopards out here are relatively smaller, so you have a very small track and a little bit more definition as far as the track is concerned. It's almost a prettier looking track. However, the shape is going to be very much the same, just a little bit more definition. And then when we go to the cheetah tracks, they're slightly more elongated with the 3 pads at the back. So when we look at the cat tracks, guys, the easiest thing to see when it's cat tracks is if you look at that back part of the foot, there's always 3 pads. Hyenas and dogs, they've got 2 pads. Hyenas have a hanging lobe. The dogs have 2 pads, which is at the same level. But for cats, we look at those 3 pads and then relatively round toes, as you can see over there. Okay, so with the cheetahs, slightly more elongated track. So if I had to draw one over here, instead of it being round like a lion, it's going to be a little bit more like this, like an oval shape, with the 3 pads at the back being also very well defined, and then you will see claw marks when it comes to the cheetahs, because their claws only retract partially, so it's still sticking out a little bit, and that is just because they needed to have like running spikes to have a little bit more traction when it comes to running at those great speeds. So always claws being out a little bit, so you see the claw marks registering in the sand. And then when it comes to the difference between lion and leopard track, I want to say the default thing that we use is firstly size, and then when you do get a lion track as opposed to a leopard track, even if it is a cub, it is a little bit more rough, because they're such bulky animals. There's not a lot of definition when it comes to the imprint. However, when it comes to a leopard, with them being so elegant and a little, much lighter than a lion, you'll find that there's a lot more definition around the track. So a very pretty track to look at. So those are the main differences. This is textbook lions. Also, the pattern in what they walk, in which they walk. Lions, they like the easy route. They're big, they're lazy, they want to get to where they are very quickly. So they normally get a pathway and they follow a straight route. So with these tracks, they're going straight towards that tree over there, and I doubt that they'll differ or go off that track for any reason unless they're hunting. Leopards, they are a little bit more zigzaggy. So they have their own plan, they know where they want to be, and they have no rush getting there. So they walk slowly from tree to tree, and then you find them almost like a serpentine motion, almost like a snake track, going like this. Whereas cheetahs, again, also a little bit more of a straighter track or straighter path when they start walking. So yeah, guys, I think what we are going to do is we're going to start following these tracks, see where they go, and then from there, see if we can find those lions. I'm hoping that it is more than just the 3 that we have here. When we found the tracks initially, it looked like more, so hopefully it will be more. So as soon as we find them, we're going to let you know, okay?
Michael, you have confirmed that this is a shasha, which means this is the male. And I clearly need to do more genital checking. I'm really not sure. This is actually my second sighting with these cubs, which is so wonderful. They really don't touch onto Djuma too much. It's few and far between. And if they do, as you saw earlier, they just cross the boundary and stay at the sort of real southern section of Djuma. So we're really lucky to have this one here. So thank you, Michael. You were saying it's the male. It is shasha, not langa. This must be such a relief. Really, really feel the difference in temperature myself. We're getting some cloud cover. It's a little bit of a breeze. It's very pleasant. Imagine lying on that damp soil. You've just had a huge drink. Life is good. It's still sticky, but it's definitely a lot cooler. Jane, I don't believe leopards can see ultraviolet light. They do have very different eyes to ours. Well, not very different, but their eyes are definitely different to ours. Oh, yes, I recognize them now. Shasha. And they have a special layer, the Tepidum lucidum, which we regularly refer to as what helps us see the eye shine at night time. And it's a special layer that's reflecting light twice back onto the eye, and they have additional sort of rods to help them see at night time for nocturnal vision. So their eyes are quite large. They've not got small eyes, which show that they do rely on vision. It's very binocular vision for judging distance, but I don't believe they can see in ultraviolet light. Their eyesight is said to be about 7 times better than ours. Their hearing's said to be about 5 times better than ours. So although they have the whiskers, the sensory cells, they must be able to see at night time. When there's no light whatsoever, they've still got to be able to navigate their way through the dark. And that's why they're such exceptional nocturnal hunters. I don't think leopards would necessarily have a need to see ultraviolet light, but I could be wrong on that one. I will check for you. He's looking in the direction of the kill, where I think Sabi and Langa are. So I imagine once he feels a little bit cooler, he's going to head back that way. Leila is hot. He's really, really hot. And panting helps him cool down. So it's a form of evaporative cooling. It's actually the exact same as us sweating. When we sweat on our armpits or wherever we sweat, we're cooling through evaporative cooling. We're drawing heat away from the body as that moisture evaporates. And that's exactly what Shasha is doing here. Panting, just like dogs, just like cats, when they're too hot, they can't really sweat. And therefore, opening the mouth, moving the tongue, breathing heavily pumps air in and out, which allows the out-breath to remove heat. Far too hot. They don't have many options out here. Either seek shade, drink water, and pant. We are lucky with our ability to sweat. I know that some people probably don't agree and they wish they didn't sweat as much as they did, but we're actually very lucky to be able to sweat. It's a very efficient mechanism to cool down. It's one of the most efficient ways which allowed us to run as fast as we do for as long as we do. So this pair, this litter, was born in August 2019. And it's obviously now November. So give or take a week or two, they're almost a year and 4 months, or approaching a year and 4 months. So very soon this little unit, this little trio will break up. Shasha will hang on to Mom a little bit longer. It's a Mommy's boy. But Langa will leave. And it will come about quite naturally when we say that the mothers can appear to be quite through our perception, aggressive to the youngsters, snarling, showing teeth. It's probably not aggressive. It's probably just Mom's way of saying it's time to go now. It's time for you to be on your own. Set up your own shop. Get your own territory now. We saw Tandy do it with Tlalamba. Lots of snarls, hissing. And to us, it looks rather sad, a mother doing that to offspring. But Mom has to say it's time to go now. You're reaching independence. You need to go and be a big girl. And for a male, it's a natural, sort of innate instinct to disperse. Disperse from natal ground, just the same as Sebwig. It happens all across the animal kingdom, dispersal. Now, if we can just zoom out, I know this sounds rather strange, but you'll be able to see exactly how camouflaged this leopard is. Although the grass is very green, you could easily drive past and not spot this leopard. Sue, you're asking about sunstroke, and I don't know if I can talk for all animals here. I think I better be careful in what I say. That let's just stick with mammals because we're looking at a mammal right now, but I believe that they can suffer from heat stroke. But they have that sort of instinct when once they get too hot, they will straight away seek shade or seek water. There's that drive to always keep cool. But I believe it's really, really possible for them to actually get heat stroke, especially mammals. It's the exact same as us. We can get heat. I actually got it the other day. We're endotherms. So we sort of mammals, I say we, mammals, we function at a really high core body temperature that ranges from around 35 degrees Celsius to 39 degrees Celsius. I'm not entirely sure what the Fahrenheit is. My brain doesn't function in Fahrenheit. And that's quite high temperatures. So it generally exceeds the temperatures of the ambient environment, and that's because it comes from metabolic activity inside. We maintain our own body heat, and of course sunstroke or heat stroke comes when we've just been exposed to ambient temperatures that are far too high. And I believe it's possible for lions. A study has been done on lions, and they actually can get heat stroke. If they just lay in the sun all day without seeking shade, without panting, without getting water, then yes, they absolutely would get heat stroke. It's often said that when you see leopards and lions licking their forelimbs, which they do quite regularly, yes, they're grooming, but apparently this also has a sort of thermoregulation property. It also helps to cool them down, because the forelimbs are highly vascular, so by licking them it helps to cool down the blood. So yes, it's possible, but I don't believe it ever occurs. Animals are sensible enough not to lie out in the sun on a sun lounger, slather themselves in oil. They will respond to stimuli, they'll respond to their body. Too hot, seek shade. Too cool, seek sun. JSP nowhere near. They're sub-adults. Neither of them have left mother yet, so they've got a long way to go. This young male's got to set up a territory first, before he'll get any ladies. But for setting up a territory, he's going to have to disperse. Most likely, he'll disperse. It's very rare to find natal leopards that don't. And in setting up a territory is not easy. You're always going to have competition. You're always going to have male leopards that you're going to have to contend with or somehow find space. I really don't think it's an easy task whatsoever to become a territorial male. Then all the behaviours are going to come to play. Then all the biological changes will take place. Rise in testosterone. And then, of course, you will be ready to mate with any ladies that are in estrus. Most of the female leopards are quite flirtatious, if you like. They very much signal to the males, I'm in estrus, I'm ready. This youngster's got a long way to go. But if you think of our boy Hosanna, he made it, he did it, and he's huge now. Just like his daddy. Hosanna is a mighty fine male leopard. If I actually see Shasha to the toilet, I think I may collect it. We've got one Panthera jar left. Are you ready to collect some leopard scat, Kurt? No. That would really give us the answer we needed on who's the daddy. So we are going to just sit here and keep cool with our leopard.
Welcome back to andBeyond Ngala, everybody. We have just found a breeding herd of elephants with this massive bull walking towards them. And he's actually in must at the moment. So if you have a look, you can actually see he's busy dribbling from his penis as he's walking. His legs are very wet. He's got a very distinct smell on him as well. It smells very spicy and almost like excessive sweat mixed with a bit of spice. But he's dribbling quite a lot as he's walking. He's also got dark marks on the sides of his temples where he's secreting from his temporal glands. So he's in must, which means he's in a heightened sexual state at the moment. And that's the reason why he's with this herd. You can see some of them are actually behind him. We've got a stunning view here. And what he's doing is he's actually testing these females to see if any of them are maybe going into estrus, getting ready to mate. But you can see the females are actually keeping their distance. They're not right next to him. And that's because when he's in must like this, he can very easily lose his temper. And you don't want a little calf to get in the way of his temper because he is massive. So he could really cause some damage in the bad mood that he can easily become afflicted to. He looks like he wants to go over to that female and smell her. Feeding along the way. Look at the width of his trunk. Unbelievable. But also just look at that size difference, male to female. It's unbelievable. That's the female in front of him, and look how much taller he is. So there's quite a massive size difference between these big bull elephants and the cows. And I would say just from his size that he's anywhere from 35 to 45 years old at the moment. He's quite old already. Those two young calves next to him. He's actually got quite beautiful tusks. He's got an incredibly wide head, look at that. So his tusks aren't that long, but they're very white. And it's actually quite normal for us these days to see elephants that don't have very big tusks. Because genetically it's actually starting to go almost a bit backwards. They're starting to go back to smaller tusks rather than bigger ones. Because the bigger tusks have been hunted out or poached for ivory. Enjoying some of that lovely fresh grass. He's actually kicking it with his toenail there, so you can see as he grabs it with his trunk, he was actually kicking the roots of the grass. So have a look at that view. We can see for kilometers from here. It's always been one of my favorite spots on the reserve. Absolutely stunning. So this area has actually got black cotton soil. So it grows very well. Elephants absolutely can twist their trunks, so especially when they are trying to get maybe some leaves off of a branch or grass out of the ground, they actually twist their trunk around it and grip on with the bottom. And that's how they'll pull the grass out, so they can definitely twist their trunks. They're also quite incredible because they've got so many muscles in the trunk that they can do a whole lot of different things. They can pick up something as small as a peanut. They can also make their trunk shorter. They can contract it if they want to walk without it dragging on the floor. If they need to stretch, they can make it long and thin. Incredibly agile with those trunks. That's why it takes those calves so long to learn how to use them. So that little one you can see in the picture is probably getting the hang of its trunk quite nicely now. But it would have been quite a challenge in the beginning. Can you imagine if you used your nose and your upper lip as your hand? It would be quite something to get used to. So these elephants have chosen a beautiful spot to come and feed for the evening. Because this area is getting nice and cool now, the soil is very rich because it's black cotton soil, so you can see it's very green here. So I think they're really enjoying this area in particular. And in fact, I've just noticed there's even more off to our left in the distance, so this might be quite a big herd. But I've always loved the silence that's around elephants. So I've always had the utmost respect for elephants. Growing up visiting the Kruger Park every year, well, almost every year with my family, we were always in the self-drive section, and you get a very healthy respect for elephants when you're exposed to them from a young age. When you realize how big they are, it's unbelievable. Definitely one of the most unusual things you'll find out here. Where else in the world? Unreal. You can actually see all of them are flapping their ears at the moment, trying to keep cool. So they are still quite warm. But they're not warm enough that they need to be in the shade at the moment. So it's in that nice happy medium now where they can control their body temperature just with their ears flapping like that to get that blood flow into the thin skin and veins behind the ear. I love that folded over piece at the top of the ear. You can sometimes also age an elephant using that because they start to fold over backwards right at the top of the cartilage of the ear as well when they get older. So it's quite strange as well. Oh, there's a tiny baby. So we've just seen the tiniest little calf. That little one is maybe less than a month old. So I think I'm actually going to sit here with this little one and see if I can get a better view of it. What a stunning, stunning sunset to have.
So from that tiny Ellie to one of the biggest bulls I've seen here in this area with magnificent tusks. I've not seen this elephant before that I could recognize, but I think I would recognize him if I saw him again. What a spectacular elephant. Hi everyone, my name is Mike, behind the camera is BK, and you've joined us at Pridelands Conservancy with Eco Training. And yes, oops, he's just over there. So I know that we haven't been on until just now. We've been gallivanting around. There was reports of a leopard. We got there, but unfortunately the leopard was no longer to be found. So we came back to one of the dams. This is Leopard Dam, or close by to Leopard Dam, and found this massive elephant bull who actually has a little bit of a nervous temperament. Oh, is he going to break this branch? Watch this. They've got phenomenally powerful, oh, never mind, phenomenally powerful, but also very delicate when they want to be. So this elephant walked right up to us and then did a big head shake and got a bit nervous and started to move off again. He's just passing through. He's on his own, so it's a big elephant, and he might be, maybe coming into Pride Lands because we've got lots of elephant herds around here, which probably are attracting this elephant because he's very big. I'm sure he's one of the more dominant bulls in the area, and so if he finds some females, there's a good chance he would be allowed to mate with them if they were sort of in the breeding stage, if they were in estrus. There you can really see those tusks now, really, really perfectly shaped, very symmetrical, very even, and very long. I'd say those tusks are at least 1 meter long, maybe 1.5 meters long outside of the elephant. So then they're another probably 0.5 meter on the inside of the elephant as well, that you can't see. So they're pretty decent sized tusks. You can see using them to push those small branches out the way. See that? Just to make a bit of space so it can reach under those trees a little bit better. Rafiki, that's a good question, and I'm pretty sure that's when the urge is strongest, and it's also when the females are most likely to accept the male as a mate. So now I'm sure that a male might try to mate or be interested in mating, but unless he was in that highly high testosterone sort of state with lots of must, very strong smell and lots of aggression, chasing away the other bulls, it's likely not to mate, to be honest. I know the females can be quite picky, and so they'll often wait and, sort of keep rebutting the male's advances until the right male comes along. So this male is not in must now, but if he found a female, so I'm also not really sure how must is, how it sets in. What is the trigger? Is it just a normal, is it a cycle, or is it specifically triggered by something? I'm not 100% sure, but certainly he's not in must now. But if maybe there were some females that he came to sniff, because I've seen elephants, they definitely investigate females and they're interested in the females even when not in must. But I know for sure the females will likely not accept him unless he was in must. It's a good question though. We'll have to do a bit of reading just to make sure. But if he was in must, I don't think there's many. We actually just bumped into, although we were in an area we've never really seen him before, we bumped into another elephant, which a lot of our viewers will know quite well, is named Kumo in this area. So he was one of the research elephants that had a collar on, and the collar fell off. Oh, there's a radio. The collar fell off and was actually found by Taylor and Gert. And, we've got to know the elephant quite well after that. So we actually just saw him now at an area called the HQ. It's not really great signal there, unfortunately, so we don't often film in that location, but it was nice to see him. And this elephant, I would say, is of an equal size to Kumo, but with much larger tusks. So it would be interesting to see those two face off. Now, I know that tusks generally are quite intimidating, so just visually you might think that this elephant will be stronger than Kumo, let's say, even if they're the same size. But there was an elephant that came to our camp not so long ago, who we don't know. We'd never seen him before. He was about the same size as Kumo as well. Big, massive elephant bull, probably in his 40s, but with only one tusk, and the other tusk was very short. And immediately when he walked into our camp, Kumo and the other young elephant bulls just left immediately. They all just made their way out of there. After a bit of, communication, we could hear rumblings and grumblings. So I wonder if, tusk size has nothing to do with whether an elephant is more dominant or not. It was a very interesting interaction. So I'd love to be able to see it a bit more and witness it. And he's heading in the right direction. If he keeps going that way, he will go to the area that we call HQ, which is in the central north of Pride Lands, right on the boundary. Hopefully, we'll get to see this elephant many more times to come, because he is a really, really beautiful one. But as you can see, even a 5-ton elephant can disappear into the shrubs as if it were a ghost. well, we're going to keep making our way down towards Leopard Dam and hopefully find something else that's interesting.
Shasha is thoroughly enjoying the snooze and keeps getting interrupted by all sorts of insects, amphibians, I think. So let's just take a minute or two to watch him and listen to the sounds of the bush.
Welcome back to our peaceful herd of elephants at andBeyond in Ngala. We are watching this little calf that's just started getting its tusks, and it is having such a good time twisting and turning its trunk around, playing with the grass. You can actually see its tongue when it flips its trunk up like that. Little pink inside its mouth. It's so cute. So what it's doing is it's not only learning to use its trunk and exercise the muscles, but that's actually how they would also sand or mud bath, by spraying water and mud over themselves using that same motion. So not only is it quite fun to throw something around, but it's also a good skill to learn if you want to learn how to properly use your trunk when you need to. Got the tiniest little tusks though, so I would think this little one is maybe 2 years old, if that. Looks like it's going to pull the whole tree out. Oh, I got some leaves. Definitely still learning how to use the trunk fully. Brent, elephants will eat different amounts depending on where they're found, but also how big each elephant is. So a big male elephant like the first one we saw earlier would have to eat a lot more than this little calf. So normally the average for a big male elephant might be between, say, 200 and 300 kilograms of food in a day. But for a little one like this, I would think hardly anything compared to that, maybe 20 kilograms of food. But compared to how much we would have to eat, they have to eat quite a lot more because their digestive system isn't as good. So they've got to eat a lot of low quality food for it to be digested slowly. As opposed to us, we can eat high quality food and it's digested fairly quickly, so we can eat less. So it works on kind of the principle of low quality in high quantity or high quality in low quantity, depending. And there'll be a specific way that each mammal actually goes around that, depending on their own digestive system. So it's actually amazing to see that this little one is learning that as it's feeding, it needs to be cleaning that food. And so that's also part of shaking it out like that. Getting all of that dirt off so it doesn't ground down your teeth. But I think it's also just getting a bit more energy. The sun's actually just gone behind some clouds. So it's cooled off immensely in the last little while. It's almost like it's trying to leave it on its head. It's actually resting its back right leg as well. I don't know if you can notice that. Kate, I absolutely agree. It is very cute. I love elephant calves. They're always playful, and especially when they're learning how to use their trunk. It's always incredible to watch. I'm one of those people that I think every baby animal is cute. In fact, any baby, anything is cute to me. I think it's a bit of a problem sometimes. It almost looks like it's not quite sure how to flap its ears at the same time either. They're a little bit delayed one after the other. Trying to multitask can be incredibly hard when you've got to control so many muscles. So you can see that was actually a dry stick that went into the mouth there. It wasn't that lush green grass like now. And that might be just for a bit of roughage to chew on the bark, maybe get some last little bit of water out of it. It's actually got some dried mud on its back as well. I think they might have been in a water hole sometime in the heat of the day today. Look at that size difference compared to Mom, literally half the height. Your Deshwar, no, they won't disturb the elephants while they're eating. So it's actually more of a tool than a disturbance. It doesn't really make much of a difference to them. In fact, there's not very much that would disturb an elephant while it's eating. Unless maybe a predator. Or maybe a very angry bull coming into a breeding herd. That might disturb them. So I'm actually going to reposition a tiny bit because they are coming towards us. So bear with me while I start up and just reverse a little bit. We just want to be sensitive to them and make sure that we're not too close for comfort for them. But it's incredible to think that we've got so many elephants right here and they're all so peaceful. Okay. A little bit better. Now you can actually see the tusks really well as well. Nice frontal of the elephant. And you can see behind it where those dark green trees are, there's elephants in front of those trees as well. I would estimate this herd between the ones on this side of the road and on the far side of the road, and I can even see some on the horizon, might be maybe 60 to 70 elephants here. You can actually see where the dirt has rubbed off certain pieces of this one's tusks. It's a young male, and he's possibly been using those for play fighting, maybe even for feeding or just rubbing them against a tree. And there you can see him twisting that trunk, using it to get some food. Crystal, I'm sure that they do feel some form of teething sensation when that ivory tusk comes through. But I don't think it's quite the same as us, because with elephants, they have 6 sets of teeth that come through. The tusks stay the same throughout. They don't get replaced. But the other teeth do. So I would imagine their mouths are quite a lot tougher than ours. So they maybe don't feel it the same way that we do, that itching or painful feeling when you're starting to get teeth coming in. But once they lose a tusk, it definitely hurts if they break it off, because it exposes the root canal. And so that can be very painful, and then it won't grow back. Whereas if they've still got the other, say, 5 sets of teeth to grow as they get older, their molars in particular, that's okay. If they lose one, it should grow back with the next set of teeth that comes in every 10 years. Oh, I can smell them now. Elephants have got a very distinct smell. Those two are almost coming face to face there. They're greeting each other. Look at the trunk going up. So the male, which is the one closest to us, is actually resting his trunk on the other one's head, which is almost like a way of saying, I'm a little bit stronger than you, I'm a bit more dominant. And that's probably because these two are at that age now where they are testing each other's patience and their own strength as well. And that's quite normal for teenagers. They're starting to get a bit of a rush of hormones. They're wanting to test the boundaries a bit. Especially young males. I would say he's close to the age where he might actually be kicked out of the herd by the matriarch or by his mother, because he might start getting a little bit too boisterous with the younger calves as well. So I've actually just noticed as well, there's 2 fairly young calves in the background, and it's reminded me of the twins we've had here. The tusks definitely do grow out from the skull, so it would be the same as our teeth where they're fitted into our jaw bones. The tusks grow from the jaw bones and the skull, the upper skull of the elephant, just like our teeth. So their tusks are almost the equivalent of our incisors and canines, our front teeth, and they would grow from the bone, just like ours would. That's why it hurts so much if they do break it, because it's a very sensitive nerve that goes into the bone. I love all those little hairs on its lip. It's actually got a leaf hanging off of one of its little beard hairs there. So underneath that tusk, you can actually see almost like a slit where it opens up into the mouth. And a very wrinkly bum. There, so you can see where the tusk goes into the lip, and it actually has a fold over the left-hand side of the tusk that you can see. And on the right, you can see it folds backwards up into the top lip. And it's actually open, so if you were to put your hand inside, say, an elephant there, you can see it nicely. If an elephant is, for example, having a collar put on or has been put under anesthetic for whatever reason, and you slid your hand up that tusk, you would actually go into the gum cavity there. So it's actually an open slit. So one thing you'll notice, especially being asked earlier, How much do they eat? Whenever elephants are moving, they're almost constantly eating, unless there's a threat or something very particular that they want to go to, like a waterhole. That's when they would maybe stop eating and just concentrate on moving fast. But at this stage, they'll be moving and feeding all at the same time, because they need to make sure they get enough of that food in. Oh, look at those toenails. Unbelievable. So we're going to give them a little bit more space again now, but just have a look at those feet and how he's using that trunk as he's walking past. Absolutely incredible sighting today.
And the eagle has landed. I think this is Mama Wahlberg. Mrs. Wahlberg has come to join us with Shasha at the pan. Now, we're very close to the Mulwati. We're very close to the Wahlberg's nest. And I'm pretty sure this is Mama. Mama's a pale morph. Dark wings, but the general body coloration is very white. You've got that tuft of feathers on the crown of the head. It gives them a unique head shape. It's immediately how you know it's a Wahlberg. Very small eagles, very petite. And I'm convinced she's either incubating or rearing a chick in that nest. I'm just not sure which one is the case, because the nest is so high up. There is no way that our camera can actually get a good look inside. So there's definitely something going on. She's either got an egg that she's incubating or she's got a chick. And I have a funny feeling, my gut's telling me the other Wahlberg's pair, the one at Wahlberg's Nest Road, I don't think they've been successful this year. They were successful last year. They had a chick last year, but the year prior to that, they were also unsuccessful. They don't have a great track record. Oh, and off we go. Down to the other side. Down to the real dam, twin dams. Now, Sabui and Langa are active at the kill. We tried to drive there and have a look, but it's very busy with vehicles. So I think us sitting here with Shasha is perfect. A very sleepy Shasha. I have a dog in my family called Sasha, so I'm probably going to say Sasha many times by mistake. But he knows he's not far. He's not far from food. He's not far from Mum. Oh, Ego's coming back. Mrs. Wahlberg's back. It's a much better view. Hello, beautiful lady. There's a leopard there. Isn't she stunning? She probably looks extremely large on your screen, but Wahlberg's eagles are really small, especially compared to your Tawny, even your Steppe, even your Battaliers. I mean, the female weighs just marginally more than the male. The male weighs 1 kilogram. They're said to weigh 1 kilogram for Wahlberg's eagle, and the female 1.5. Female's larger, as with the case of most raptors. Now you see that dark patch in front of the eye. If she gives us a good enough look at her face, that's also a key feature of the Wahlberg's eagle if you're ever unsure. Raptors are not easy. Wouldn't it be great if she hunted something? Don't let her size mislead you. Wahlberg's eagles are also known to take smaller birds, and there was actually some doves around here earlier. Bernie Lulu? You're saying what a gorgeous eagle. I know. I actually think, if I have to say, probably the most beautiful eagle for me, the pale morph Wahlbergs. She'll use her talons to seize anything that she spots. She's highly visual. And as soon as she spots her snack, she'll use her talons, lifts it off the ground, and that's dinner for the night. But waterholes are perfect. Frogs, lizards, insects, small birds. Waterholes are the perfect place to check for food. Maybe you don't expect a leopard to be there, but otherwise, it's a good place to check. Oh, look at those pawpaws. So while we sit and admire the sub-adult leopard, we're going to send you to another location.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, everyone. And we've been having a little bit of a hard time finding something to show you all, but we've got this really pretty scene with the common buzzard that is perched in the tree there, and some colourful, like orange coloured sky in the background. And it seems as though there's a bit of a storm rolling in. There's some lightning that we can see off to our western side. But we've spotted that buzzard perched up in the tree there. Well, it's actually a fallen over tree, and it's in a very open grassy area. And so that buzzard has been just perched up there looking for any movement. So he's got his head very still, just moving his eyes around, looking for any kind of movement in the grass. Anything like a mouse, or even grasshoppers, small snakes that they can handle. They're not specialized in catching or feeding on snakes, but they do. I have seen them catch snakes before. Those are all things that we would find out in this open grassland. Well, it's always nice when these buzzards return back to South Africa in the summer, because there's always a little raptor around that you can find and have a look at. And it's been quite interesting to see like the variety of things that I've actually seen them catching. So there's a very deadly snake called the vine snake, which is probably the strangest thing that I've ever seen a common buzzard catch. And then also big grasshoppers. But it seems this one has not been able to find anything yet. You might be able to see the feathers moving. So there's lots of wind blowing at the moment. So it will make spotting things very difficult for it, because the whole bush is basically moving. But Craig and I are going to carry on from here and see what else is out there.
We've got a little huckleberry fin here. zebra with a long piece of grass in its mouth. They often eat the longer grass when the other animals like the shorter stuff. That's why zebras are often found in association with others. And they're also very alert, so other animals always love to have zebras near them. It's invisible. I don't even know if there ever was a zebra there. If we can't see it, was it ever there? There you go, so it's coming out again. So there's two zebras, and I think it's maybe a stallion and a mare, but I can't really tell. The other one has already gone into the thickets, but it's on a bit of a high area. Maybe here it's a bit more open, so the animals can see it a bit. But there's also an impala, and there's a giraffe as well in this area. So there's a little congregation. None of them are eating the same food, but they will all help each other, not maybe on purpose, but by associating together, they help each other to spot the danger if it's around, which is super nice. I love the patterns on a zebra. Look at that triangle on the shoulder there. Do you see that? So that is quite interesting. You see how the muscles are shaking. Do you see that? That is when things land on the zebra. They have these involuntary muscle movements which help to shake off the parasites, especially biting flies, which are attracted to a lot of animals. Not so much to zebras, though. One of the theories on why a zebra has stripes like this is that it can confuse insects with compound eyes, like flies. And when they come to fly and land on the zebra, they find the pattern very distracting. And then they don't land on them so much. They've also got other defenses like the wagging tail. All means that they are pretty safe from the bugs.
Welcome back to our little elephant calf at andBeyond Ngala. This little one is so young. I think it's less than a month old. Still not really sure what a trunk is. It's still incredibly small. It's incredible. In the beginning, I didn't even see this one because it's so small that it actually almost hides behind the grass. And now that they've walked into a more open patch, we noticed it. You can see it's not really even sure how to flap its ears yet. Not quite sure what this is. Taking a lot of concentration to move those ears at the same time. So a little one like this is literally just learning to use its trunk. Brent, elephants communicate in a number of ways. One of the main ways is actually through a very low rumble that they make with their voice box. It almost sounds like a stomach grumble, but it's not. It's actually from the voice box. And that can travel through the ground, and they can pick up those vibrations through the soles of their feet, which are so sensitive. But they can also talk to each other with some sounds we can hear, trumpeting, rumbling, sometimes even, just little bursts of sound. And then also in ways that we can't hear. So we can't hear those rumbles under the ground, the very low frequency ones. They can also use body language. So elephants use their ears and their tails to tell what their mood is, as well as how fast they're walking. So there's many different ways that they can actually communicate with each other. There's a separate calf, also about the same age, I'd say about a month or so old. And actually, I think it is this herd. We have seen twins in this herd before. And that's quite rare for elephants. It's hardly been recorded in the wild, but we've got 2 sets of twins here at andBeyond Ngala. And so I'm always on the lookout for them because it's incredibly rare to find. I think maybe elephants do have twins more often than we realize, but maybe the one calf gets abandoned. But look at how it's trying to learn to use that trunk. It's kind of trying to get food into its mouth. You can see it's chewing. But I don't know how much it's actually getting in. It's probably tiny little pieces. You can see as soon as mom starts walking faster, little one starts walking faster. Oh, that's a very pregnant female, that one with the big tusks. Wow, that stomach is huge. Oh, and she's chipped one of her tusks. Look at the one closest to us. Her right tusk is chipped on the front. You can see it's a different color from the angle of the light reflecting. And look at the size of her belly. She's got quite a big bulge high up on her side. She's heavily pregnant. So she's been pregnant for, I would say, at least 21 of her 22-month pregnancy. And it's quite incredible for us because when I'm not speaking, I don't know if you've noticed, but you can only hear the ripping of grass. You can't actually hear the elephants stepping. Have a listen. Oh, there was a rumble. There was a rumble. Oh, cute. That's two little ones next to each other. So there must have been some form of communication that we missed before that rumble, that we didn't hear. Because all of a sudden, all of them have changed direction. They've done a full 180 and are now going the opposite way to the way that they were going before. And so that's an excellent example. We didn't hear a thing. There wasn't a change in body language other than walking a little bit faster and turning around. There must have been some form of communication there that they all knew that it was time to turn around and follow the matriarch in the opposite direction. That one's got a leaf hanging off its stomach. Oh, little one. Doesn't want to be left behind, still not quite sure of itself. So we're actually incredibly lucky today. And I mean, look at the sky that we have in the background. Massive cloud bank coming in. Beautiful sunset. So the sun's just gone behind the clouds. And it's been absolutely amazing to be surrounded by elephants. It's one of the best things that you could do at the end of the day. Because now that it's cool, they're starting to move a lot more. And especially with little ones like this, it's when they really start to become a bit more active and maybe test their skills with their trunks or even start playing with each other. So I think we're actually going to quickly turn around and see if we can find some more behind us. But it's absolutely incredible. There come the last few stragglers of this herd. Let's watch them move off and then we'll turn. They came from quite a distance down, the opposite direction. And again, we didn't hear communication there. It's a full parade of elephants today, the way that they're walking in a line. Multitasking. Picking up the pace a little bit to catch up with the rest of the herd. So elephants have always been one of my favorite things to follow because they're really relaxed around you, especially this time of the day. So I think what we're going to do, we'll follow them for a little bit and see where they go and just enjoy this peaceful time with the whole herd around us.
Well, we don't have to do any repositioning at all because we've got a lovely giraffe female who is feeding on the thorniest of the bushes. I'm not saying that it's wrong. She looked at me with very judgmental eyes there. I wasn't judging you. I was purely observing what you were eating. It is a buffalo thorn, and it is got hooked thorns and straight thorns, which will shred our skin to pieces. But this giraffe's well adapted to feed on just such plants, with her long snout, heavy lidded eyes, with those beautiful eyelashes, and thick lips, lots of saliva. All of those things help to make sure she stays safe from any damage or injury. It's interesting, she's on her own, but she's amongst the zebra and the impala, which I can't see the impala anymore, but the zebra's also moving off. It's a nice high area, and so the giraffe's probably up here again, because there are a few knob thorns around, a few buffalo thorns. And from up here, we can actually hear lots of interesting stuff. We had lions calling a moment ago, sort of in the direction straight past that giraffe, but quite far. And then immediately afterwards, some hyenas started also vocalizing. So I wonder what's happening. Sounds like somewhere on our northern boundary. Too far to be worrying this giraffe. As you can see, she looks very, very relaxed, feeding a lot on this thing. But she actually looks like she's got quite a big belly, and I wonder if she might be on the early stages of pregnancy. Do you see how round her belly is? She's behind some other sickle bushes there and weeping wattles, so I can't really see clearly, but she definitely looks like she's either well fed and extremely healthy, or in the early stages of pregnancy, which would be very exciting. BK and I have now seen 3 impala lambs, newly born, freshly baked, right out the oven. All of them have been very skittish, though. The mothers have ushered them off into the thickets well before we got any chances to try and film them. Look how this giraffe is holding its lips as far back as possible. It's sort of curled them away. So it's got the teeth inside of its mouth and obviously the long tongue. So it sort of rips with this like hard sort of plate on top of its mouth, the palate, and then the bottom jaw has teeth, and it sort of rips the leaves off, keeping its lips as far away as possible. Because even though the lips are well, armored with that thick skin, it still can hook in there and be uncomfortable, I'm sure. Especially when she digs with her nose in there. It's very interesting because there's so much good food around. I don't know why she's specifically feeding on this thing, which is very difficult to eat. But I suppose she's well adapted. She's a very beautiful giraffe. Look at the patterns on its neck. So beautiful and stark. And the pale head, a lovely mane, which has got a beautiful pale outer hairs. Glyn, that is a great question, and one I certainly can't answer without completely guessing. I'm going to say 500 teeth. No, I'm joking. It's not 500. I'm not sure. It's not so many teeth. They've only got about 6 or 8 on the front. They've just got the bottom jaws incisors on the front there. And then they've got, let me think about this. Yeah, molars. Just the molars on the side there, and not a whole lot of them. I'm not going to guess because I can't remember how big. It's a long time since I saw the inside of a giraffe's mouth or a skull that has been, the flesh has been removed. Not that much less than us, I would say. Maybe around the same amount as us. Because remember, their jaw is quite long. How many do we have? Oh, that's very loud. It's a very long jaw. I don't know how many we have. Holy moly. Mel, I don't know if you came up with that answer yourself, but it's 32 teeth. The same as humans. Exactly the same as humans. That's incredible. I was actually going to say it must be quite similar to us. Their jaws are larger, but their teeth are also bigger. That's incredible. I didn't know that. Now I do. I have learned something today. Thank you so much for the question. That being said, questions, as you can see, help us to learn as much as it helps you guys to learn. So please don't forget to send your questions to @FC. If any kids are watching, don't forget to send them to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Wonderful. A load of questions. And I'm sure if this giraffe could understand English, she would also love the questions. So please, don't forget to send them through. She would love them almost as much as she's enjoying this buffalo thorn. It's getting very humid now. BK, do you feel that? The last hour or so it got super humid. I wonder, is there rain coming? Joe Souza, the giraffe's horns, or those ossicones on top there, are a little different from the buffalo's horns. So the buffalo's horns are bone covered in a keratin sheath. Very hard, very resilient. The giraffe's horn, this is a female giraffe, so her horns, or ossicones as they're known, are much, much thinner than a male's would be. Hers are certainly covered in a skin on the outside and fur on top, and it's very small. So if this giraffe had to go head-to-head with a buffalo, its horn, the giraffe's ossicones would get completely destroyed. They're way softer. The male giraffe's ossicones are thicker and heavier, but still bone covered in like like a keratin, the skin, but without the fur on top. So they are thicker and heavier, but still no match, I think, for a buffalo's horns. Now, I think the difference between an ossicone and a horn is that horns grow from within the skull or directly from the skull, whereas the ossicones are like a build-up of calcium material, I think. But don't quote me on that, I'm not 100% sure, but they're certainly called different because they are different. And buffaloes are definitely stronger than giraffes. Well, she's decided that that's enough from that buffalo thorn. It's time to eat from the next one. In fact, the next one is actually a sickle bush, which is much easier to eat. It hasn't got the hooked, sharp thorns. It's got spines all over it, but much easier to get to and also very palatable. One of the most palatable of all the trees. It's also medicinal for us. If we chew on sickle bush leaves, say we got a wound or a rash or something that's getting a little bit infected, if we chew those leaves into a paste and then stick them on our wound, it's supposed to have antibacterial properties and it's supposed to help to help it to heal and to clot much better than without. What do they call it? There's a specific name when you chew something into a paste or you make a paste. A salve? Could be a salve. I don't think that doesn't sound right. But anyway, very useful stuff. Doesn't taste particularly good, but then again, medicine never does. See, she's taking much bigger mouthfuls of this than she was of the buffalo thorn because the leaves are larger, much easier to get to. Especially if she's eating for two. She'll need as much as she can get. Now you can really see those eyelashes. Very dark eyes. It almost looks like she's wearing like mascara. Oh wait, is it called mascara? Eyeliner. I don't know. But you can see those dark lines underneath and on top, and then the eyelashes are so deep and dark. They're such pretty animals, actually, giraffes, when you get up close and look at them. Those white ears as well, and the dark marks on the top of the horns, and the like beautiful markings on the side. This is, if anything, one of the prettiest giraffes I've seen in a long time. Tate, I agree. She came real prepared for anything. Oh, and then she licks her own nose with her extremely long tongue. Delicious. What a catch. So, one of the interesting adaptations of giraffes is that they do have this incredibly long tongue, so they can reach out and grab branches that are otherwise out of reach, but they can also help to clean the nasal passage. Very nice. What is she doing now? Oh, back to the buffalo thorn. Had a little snack. You know, when you're watching a movie and you eat too much chocolate and then you just want something savory, so you eat some crisps and then you're like, oh no, I want chocolate again after that. It's basically what's happening in my head. She's going back for the sweets. It looks so difficult. Look at the grimace that she makes when she tries to eat this. That's so interesting. Oh, couldn't quite get that one just right. Look at that. Look at the tongue flicking out and just grabbing literally single leaves. Oh, no, not that time. That time she took the whole branch. Very, very interesting to watch how they... Oh, you can hear the lions again calling. Oh, it's too far for us to catch on the ambient, I think, but we'll go and see if we can find those lions for you in a little bit.
Welcome back, everyone, to andBeyond Phinda. And Craig and I have just found a bird that neither of us have ever seen before. This is a lifer for both of us. Now it is starting to get a little bit dark here because there's some really heavy clouds rolling in and quite a bit of lightning around. But I'm going to try to point out a few things that help us to identify this bird. So it's got that very white neck or white front on the neck. And then if you look at the back of the neck, like sort of the shoulder region where the neck meets the wings of the bird, it's got that beautiful brown, like a rufous kind of color. And then the body, or the top of the wings, are a grayish brown color. And then it's got those very pretty white patches or blotches on the parts of the wings. And now I've been on Phinda for 3 years now, and I'm not actually sure that this bird has been seen on Phinda since I've been here. So if anyone knows what the bird is, please give it a go. Otherwise I will eventually tell you what it is. But Craig and I are very excited. This is the first time both of us have seen this bird. Now, it's quite a big bird. In the book, males are around about 110 centimeters tall. Females around about 85 centimeters tall. Males about 8.6 kilograms. Oh, there, it just took off. That is so awesome. So I'll show you in the book. I'll have to give it away. But that's the bird over there. Close, Megan. Close. Very close. So this is the Kori bustard. Lacking that rufous brown color on the back of the neck. I'm not too sure how well you could see it. But if we go to the Denham's bustard, you'll see that rufus brown color, white on the front, grey-brown back of the bird, and then white and black blotches on the sides of the wings. And it looks like it's got quite an impressive breeding display there where it can puff its neck out. So hopefully we'll be seeing some more of that bird in the future. It was really, really special to see. We tried so hard to get a good view of it, and it kept going. As we would come closer, it would keep going behind a bush. And as we were moving, it would follow around the bush like that so that we couldn't see it. But eventually it stood still, and it stood still for that whole time that you were with us. So myself and Craig are going to keep going. It's cooled down quite nicely, so we're hoping that with this cooler weather, slightly earlier, we might find something like a leopard or a lion that will be getting ready and starting to move for the evening. So off to our left, we've got a very prominent mountain range on Phinda called the Lebombo Mountains. And just at the foot of that mountain, there's a very prominent drainage line. It's really, really thick. And we know from past experience that the leopards on Phinda like to use that drainage line to move through undetected, mostly by the animals that they might be trying to hunt, but also by any other leopards or bigger potential danger to them. So let's see. Craig and I are going to check some areas where we know a female leopard on Phinda has got a territory. So we're going to just be driving through that area now, and hopefully she's out and on the move.
So we have just found two beautiful ostriches at andBeyond in Ngala. We came to this big open clearing hoping for maybe a sign of a cheetah or the wild dogs. And we bumped into these two ostriches. Now this is probably only the maybe 6th or 7th time I've ever seen ostriches on my 3 years in Ngala. And they're quite uncommon here because normally they would require these bigger open areas, so we might find them further north in the Kruger Park, sometimes further south. That one's walking with its wing a little bit out, which looks quite strange. But ostriches are pretty unusual for us to see here. This looks like two females. I can't see a male. They're that very dull grey colour. The male would have that stunning black with very, very bright white. I wonder if they're walking with their wings out to try and cool down a little bit, also to maybe gain their balance while they're bending over and feeding while they walk. always been one of the strangest looking birds to me. I mean, it's quite interesting. So this is something that we don't often see, but it's always something that we're aware of, especially if, for example, I'm taking maybe a walking safari, like a bushwalk. An ostrich is something that you'd actually have to be really careful of. In a vehicle like this, you know, there's absolutely no threat. But on foot, animals react a little bit differently, and so it's actually always something you want to be careful of when you're walking, especially. I've only come across them once on foot, but they were quite far in the distance. But it was quite a wonderful experience, actually. I really enjoyed them. Quite stunning.
We are just stopped here to listen a bit closer to where those lions called from. Now, they were very far, so we've just come maybe a kilometer or two to stop and just listen. And as you can see, nightfall is descending. The sun has just set. There's a lot of clouds, so we couldn't see the sunset. We just want to listen for a moment to see if we can hear anything calling once again for us. Guinea fowl calling in the distance. We've got some drongos. It's quiet otherwise, though. It's very hot and very stuffy. It's always good to just listen when we're out in the bush, though, once in a while. See, we're in a bit of a high point. You can look down into the valley down there. That's actually where our eco-training camp is, in there, that low point. This is my second favorite time of the day. Just after sunset. Sunrise, my favorite. Just after sunset is my second favorite, because there's this second wave of light that sort of comes through as it bounces off the Earth's atmosphere and just lightens everything up a little bit. And that's when I find a lot of animals start to get active. It's cooling down. The bush is so alive at the moment, so green and vibrant. We've been seeing, BK and I, lots of plants that we've never noticed before. We've seen them for the first time flowering this year. Excellent flowering here. I couldn't quite get the name there, but there's a good question about whether birds can deal well with temperature. And the answer is not really. I mean, they've got adaptations that can help them to deal with temperature. They've got the feathers that create a great insulating barrier against heat and cold, but they can't sweat like we can. So if it gets too hot, they have to pant. And if they can't pant enough to cool down, they can succumb to the heat. And lots of small birds are not very well equipped to dealing with very cold snaps that come along. For example, birds that are still fledging, that haven't got their full feather coat yet. If the temperature drops too quickly and the parents happen to be away or have to feed them or be off and doing their things, those birds can succumb as well. So we do find after cold snaps quite often birds that are on the ground that have not made it, especially small songbirds and things that are roosting at night on power lines, yes, but also on fences, on relatively exposed areas, things like swallows and swifts, doves that are on very poorly constructed stick nests. So definitely birds have adaptations, but they can't deal with them very well sometimes. So, I mean, hopefully in these hot days to come, the birds will do just fine. I hope that we're going to not find any birds that have succumbed to the heat, because it's going to get hot. I think we're expecting more than 40 degrees Celsius, which is, I think if I add this up correctly, somewhere near 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I think you double it and you add 20 or something like that as a rough rule. Or add 30 maybe. You double it and you add 30. Maybe it's 110. It's very hot. That's why we'll find the elephants coming to the waterhole frequently. Have you heard anything yet, PK? Not yet, eh? It's been quiet for a few minutes now. You can still hear. There's actually some pearl spurred owlets that are starting to call. I'm not sure if you can hear that. They're very high-pitched whistling. That was me that did that, but the birds are making the same sound. And those are pearl, tiny little owls that are only about the size of a clenched fist that are starting to get active to hunt. Oh, that is very nice and pretty. They can only start calling now frequently without being chased and mobbed by other birds, because other birds are starting to settle down for the night. Because they're quite small, when they call during the day, they get attacked and mobbed by so many other things. But now all the other things are starting to settle down. You can hear some raucous beasts in the distance. That's our students who've all graduated. We're not so far from the camp. I'm sure the campfire is going to be roaring soon. Well, we'll keep moving in the direction of where those lions' calls came from and see if we can hear them any better.
Welcome back to excuse me, andBeyond Phinda, everyone. We found some, well, a big bachelor group of impalas, and I thought we'd just switch off here for a little bit and listen, see if the bush gives us any clues as to where there might be some predators starting to move around. There's a beautiful open clearing around here where these impalas are moving, and they seem to be getting their last little feed in for the day before they settle in for the night. Now, as they're moving from where they've been feeding during the day, we're hoping that they might encounter a nocturnal predator and obviously give us a clue, just like those giraffes earlier on who were staring at the cheetah. If these impalas do spot a predator, they will give that alarm snort that they do. But they seem to just be moving slowly, heading into that clearing that I mentioned. So no obvious signs for now, so we're going to keep moving. Thank you, Camo, for the question, and the answer is yes, we definitely do. And that's the beauty of the bush. It makes those days where you see lots of different animals and you have these amazing sightings. That's what makes those days so sweet, the quiet days that you have in between. And so most days actually that we drive around in the bush, we don't see too much. And that's, I guess, also the beauty of WildEarth, is that you get to see so many different animals on one afternoon drive. So there is some water up ahead, and the last time that this female leopard was seen was sort of in an area off to our right hand side, slowly moving towards that water. So we'll just check, well, we'll continue checking. We might stop and switch off again if we find some more antelope. Especially now as it starts getting darker, the nocturnal predators will start to wake up. We might get a territorial sort of vocalization from a leopard that we might be able to hear. We might hear some hyenas starting to call. And so switching off can often help a lot when you're trying to find some of the nocturnal animals. Rosalind is asking how big is Phinda. So Phinda is at about 28,000 hectares at the moment. And we are constantly negotiating with our neighbors and in agreement with the communities, trying to expand Phinda. So at the moment some of our neighbors are game reserves, but obviously there is a fence around the whole of Phinda. And so there's constant back and forth negotiating, trying to come to an agreement where we will both equally benefit from putting down the fences. The obvious big objective of that is to make the land that the animals can use if animals want to Phinda and mate with the Phinda animals and vice versa. So we're going to be checking along the edge of another drainage line, and where something like a leopard or a lion would have been resting during the day out of the sun in the nice shade, and hopefully by now, as it's cooled down and starting to get dark, might become a bit more active.
I couldn't agree with Grant more. Welcome back to andBeyond in Ngala. I think that now that it's getting a bit cooler, we've got a much higher chance of bumping into some more active animals. But we're doing exactly the same thing. We're driving around looking for, especially in this area, it's fantastic for cheetah, wild dog, decent chance of leopard, but also this is the last place the Birmingham Pride was seen as well. So we're really hoping for one of the predators tonight, but at the same time, it's such a stunning evening. And actually, it's such a pleasant temperature at the moment that it's almost re-energizing me. It does a lot for your soul, even just being out here and taking in all the greenery and the birds. So we've actually been very lucky today. We've had patches of, you know, it is very unpredictable. We've had patches of nothing for a while. Then, you know, you turn a corner, it's like an oasis. There's animals everywhere, from wildebeest and zebra and impala and giraffes and ostriches and elephants, all over, everywhere that you can see. And then these beautiful quiet patches again, almost where you can just appreciate just being out in the bush. And I think this time of the day is absolutely perfect. There's not a breath of wind at the moment. It's not cold, but it's not hot. Really stunning. So it's obviously, you know, also one of the things that you have to appreciate about being in the bush is that level of unpredictability. And I think that's what makes it so magical. I agree with Grant. You know, the fact that we can't predict what you're going to see and where and when. And you've just got to get in tune with what nature wants to do. I think that's one of my favorite things of being out here. It's out of our control. Wimpy, no, they definitely can see at night. So it would depend which animal you would be talking about, but majority of animals can see pretty well at night. Obviously, herbivores actually can't see as well as the predators, because predators, especially like lions and leopards, would be hunting more at night. So they've actually got ridiculously good vision at night. But things like impalas and kudu, even giraffes, their eyesight, they can see at night, but they can't see as well. So they would rely more on things like hearing and smell. But it's not as bad as ours, let me put it that way. They can actually see better than us at night. In fact, I think in the bush, humans are quite ill-adapted, the modern human anyway, for living in the bush in the dark. I think it's also one of the privileges of being out here. You actually get to appreciate that. You know, compared to an elephant, we are so small. Compared to how things work in nature, it's so different in the human world. I think it's one of the reasons why I'll always love the bush as well. It just reminds you of where everything sits. Beach bunny flies are quite important ecologically, not only for clearing up waste and debris, but also for control. So let me put it this way. If it weren't for flies and their life cycle, there wouldn't be maggots and those kinds of things. And maggots are a massive part of what cleans up, especially carcasses and carrion out here. So when there's a carcass or anything dead, or even any excrement, so any feces from the animals, the flies really, really help and clean that up. And that's incredibly important in terms of recycling those nutrients. It provides a huge food source themselves as well for a whole lot of other animals. But at the same time, they can offer quite a bit of pest control or population control, I should say. So there are certain species of flies that might carry diseases, and those diseases can be transmitted to animals, and that might control the animal populations. And animal populations are quite important. When you look at them, they fluctuate naturally. They go up and down in any area. And it's important that it does, because you don't want to overstep that threshold that the environment can actually handle. And so this is a natural way that animal numbers can be controlled, is through pests like flies or even tick-borne diseases. But in terms of the bigger picture, it's a massive food source for a lot of animals, eagles, a lot of the smaller birds, fork-tailed drongos, rollers, even owls sometimes, but also for smaller things, scorpions and mongooses. And so they provide a pretty massive food source as well. It's not just cleaning up after everyone else, but also becoming a massive food source for themselves. In fact, there's now a lot of projects where people are trying to use maggots as a protein source on fly farms, which is, it's an interesting topic actually to get into. But flies can be very important, as much as they can be irritating for us sometimes, and for the animals, you often see the lions and things swatting. They are quite important out here. That was an excellent question. Thank you, Beach Bunny. I think this is one of the things you can't really get tired of, is being out here. So I'm going to keep going down this road looking for any signs of predators. Or actually, I'd be happy just to spend the time out here. Anything I can find. Such a stunning evening.
We love the bush in all its many ways. One of them is just to watch the moon. And this is a waxing crescent moon that we have right now. which means that it's getting fuller. So every night from now, it's going to get brighter and brighter and brighter. What's really nice is that you can actually see the dark side of the moon right now, just faintly, faint circle. It's a beautiful, beautiful sight to behold. You can even just about see the craters all over the moon, pockmarked all over. The moon is actually a piece of Earth, as far as I understand, smashed off by an asteroid that hit us a long time ago, I suppose, and left it hanging there, a piece of it. It's very interesting. That's why there's so many of the same minerals found on the moon as they are found on Earth. Right now, I'm not caring about minerals so much as just watching it as it also makes its way slowly towards the horizon. It's also on its way down. I just couldn't see it earlier because it was so very small and blocked out by the brightness of the sun. Now, animals' behavior changes with the different phases of the moon. Not just marine animals, because of the different tides that happen as the moon comes closer or further away from the Earth and in relation to the sun, but also the brightness of the moon affects whether animals are active at night or not, or how active they'll be. I certainly know that on a night like tonight, hot and humid and still quite dark because of the moon not being super bright, you might find that animals are moving around, but it won't be as successful as if it was fully dark and if there was a bit of wind. But now on a night like this, with a bright moon, it will be very difficult for leopards to hunt. Wannabe, I agree with you. It is a lovely moon, and it looks different to how you might see it if you're in different parts of the world. Like we see a cup, right now, like a oh my goodness, it's super loud radio. Sorry about that, everyone. But in other parts of the world, you might see like a sideways moon. Like there's that Dreamcast, I think, is like a film company, and they always have a moon with a person fishing of it, and the moon is obviously tilted a bit more to the side. But anyway, when there's a full moon, you'll find lots of animals are active at night. The herbivores, large ones especially, things like buffaloes, rhinos, elephants, they'll be active at night during the full moon. They're big animals, they need to eat a lot, so the light of the moon is enough for them to move around and stay relatively safe. Animals that are predators, like leopards and lions, will be a lot less active when the moon is full and bright, because they can't hide as easily. It's too bright for them. They'll be spotted by the herbivores. Baffles me, though, that we only ever see one side of the moon. How is that even possible? Beach bunny, that's incredible. I did not know that. All the planets can be seen right now in the USA. I mean, maybe all the planets that are visible. Do you mean with the naked eye or with telescopes? Maybe with telescopes, it's possible. Certainly not with the naked eye. With the naked eye, we can only see a few planets. We can see Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, and Mercury, if it's the right time of the day. Early mornings, you can often see Mercury just on the horizon. But you wouldn't see the further planets. Maybe with the telescope, or maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe there's some phenomena which means we can see those crazy far planets as well. I wouldn't know. Everything about the planets and the moon just baffles me. Like the vast distances involved, everything involved. It's just crazy. I love to watch how the moon develops over the next coming days as it gets brighter and brighter. And it's amazing, from being super dark, you walk outside, you can't see a thing, to, being a half illuminated moon, and you all of a sudden can see shadows, and you can see that you're walking and you can see your own shadow. It's crazy. Our eyes are actually incredibly good at adapting to nighttime, to nocturnal vision. We've got this set of rod cells and cone cells. The cones help us to see in color, and the rod cells help us to see in, in definition and movement. So if we've got lots of If we let our eyes adapt slowly overnight to have more of the rod cells, or our eyes will automatically adapt to alert more of the rod cells. There's a chemical called rhodopsin which gets released, and that allows our eyes to see better at night. And, we always tell people not to use a spotlight on the diurnal animals because they're just like us. If we would shine a light in their eyes, it would take roughly about 45 minutes for their eyes to adapt back to the darkness completely. And that's because the rhodopsin gets leached out of their eyes when the bright light hits. Their pupils constrict, and then they have to start all over again. And incidentally, it takes about 45 minutes between sunset and full dark. So it's a natural adaptation that most animals have. So try it sometime, if you feel like it. Go outside for half an hour, let your eyes adapt to the darkness. Really see how much definition you can see. And then let someone shine a light at you and see what you can see after that. Spaz, my favorite sounds at night are the nightjars. I love hearing fiery-necked nightjars, square-tailed nightjars. It's just an incredible sound. The fiery-necked nightjar is such a cool, interesting sound. So if you read the bird book, it says, it sounds like the bird is saying, "Good Lord, deliver us." And I'll try and imitate it. So it sounds a bit like that. I'm not very good at that bird call, but I love to listen to it, but it's a very complex one to try and call. Probably just burst PK's eardrums there. Should have given him a bit of a heads up before I started whistling. But maybe all of you as well at home, who knows. But the other sounds that I really like to hear, leopard, for some reason, I don't hear lions at night, I don't hear elephants, I don't hear anything. But if a leopard calls somewhere close to the camp, my eyes shoot open, and I'm like so tuned into it. They are my favorite animals. And that sound the leopard makes is like it's called rasping or sawing. And it sounds like literally a rough saw sawing a piece of wood, just like that, which is a nice sound. And then the black-backed jackal, which makes this very mournful, long, drawn-out call that's very, very spooky and eerie. But I don't find it spooky, I just think it's great. Oh, the more I talk about the night sounds, the more I think of new ones, which I want to try and explain as well. Like hyenas also, it's an incredible sound. And lions also beautiful. Right now I can hear red-chested cuckoo. Let's see if you can hear some of the birds that are calling right now. So there's a Cape turtle dove going. There's a red-chested cuckoo that's saying. There's the pearl-spotted owlet that you can hear just whistling in the distance. And there was another one called a scops owl, which is an amazing bird to see, which just does this call every 4 seconds. It goes, and they count 3, 4. I tell you, don't play that owl's call when you are camping out somewhere in the bush or where you can hear it, because they're fiercely territorial. And as soon as you play that call, it will almost certainly fly. Listen, the lions are calling. It's very faint though. It's coming closer, but I'm not sure if you would hear it at home. Well, they're finished calling now. They're quite far because lions, I don't know if you heard it. I hope you heard it. It's pretty faint, but what an amazing sound to hear. They're getting closer, but they're still quite far. Let's cross our fingers and hope that they come a bit closer to us.
How lucky to hear some lions calling in the distance. It's actually one of my favorite night sounds. Sounds probably a little bit different to what other people might say, but it's an African scops owl. It's always just been something that I associate with being in the Kruger Park. It's my mum's favorite owl, my favorite owl. It's a tiny little grey owl that we find a lot here at andBeyond in Ngala, and it's one of my favorite sounds to hear out here. But lions roaring is definitely another good one. But I think, you know, especially for me, I find a lot of my favorites out here are linked to specific occasions, not necessarily just being here, but, you know, maybe memories from the past with my family or anything like that. And I find those are the small things that really make the biggest difference for me out here. Is being able to smell a potato bush, for example, especially now at night, and feel like I'm walking into Kruger Park with my family. It's absolutely incredible. I live an amazing life here. I'm very lucky to be able to call this home. And in fact, I don't know how many other people can say it, but I'm very lucky that I got to live my passion as my first job. Bats are fairly important. We don't get a whole lot of species of bats here, but we do get some fruit bats, some insect-eating bats. They do control, especially now in the summer, quite a bit of our insect populations. But we don't actually, we see them, but we don't really actually get to appreciate them particularly often. That being said, bats are always important in any ecosystem, especially for pest control at night, whether it's, you know, eating moths or other insects at night. But we do actually hear them quite a lot. It's a very high-pitched sound that you can hear, very high frequency. But in fact, I think I've only ever seen a bat in the daytime with my guests. You see them, glimpses of them coming over at night, but you only really get to appreciate them in the daytime, and I've only been able to do that once with guests because they hide so well. We actually have a stunning moon here tonight as well. It's a perfect evening. We had that cloud bank coming in earlier and it's gone. So I'm gonna use this nice open road with the clearings on the sides here to keep looking out for predators and just appreciating the nice cool breeze that's coming in at the moment.
Tess was talking about bats a second ago, and bats are super cool. I actually haven't seen any flying, but then, we're not close to a waterhole right now. We're somewhere in between both Leopard Dam and Ndlovu Dam, and they generally tend to focus around waterholes. But one thing that's definitely focusing on BK and I right now are mosquitoes. And now, bats are major consumers of insects like mosquitoes and other nocturnal bugs, and it's actually really, really important to have bats. And all over the camps around the Kruger Park and the greater Kruger Park and many people's homes in more rural areas and in built-up areas as well, they create bat boxes. Just little boxes with basically a flat plate, some chicken mesh for them to climb on, and then like a box around it that they can roost in there, because it's really important to have bats around because they eat so many of the bugs. Otherwise, we'd have just huge swarms of mosquitoes everywhere. But you'll often see bats flying low over the water and catching insects as they come to mate around the water. Because, mosquitoes lay eggs in water, so the bats will often catch those mosquitoes as they're busy. And that's super important. And there are so many different types of bats, not just insect-eating bats, but also fruit-eating ones as well. And those two types of bats together, the mega and microchiropteras, form the largest mammal I want to say order, but I might be wrong, but definitely the largest group of mammals, more species of bats than any other single mammal family, even more than rodents. It's been a wonderful day, absolutely spectacular, nice and warm. Hopefully tomorrow is going to be just as exciting, if not more exciting. I can't wait to see what the morning brings. As you know, the sunrise in the morning is my favorite time of day because it just brings so much mystery. So please don't forget to join us tomorrow when we take you on another live safari all over the African bush from 7 different destinations, which is really, really spectacular. So lucky, in fact. So I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope you're going to come and visit us again tomorrow. We take you on another adventure. What might we see? I can't tell you. All I know, as with the lion's call, it's going to be amazing.